Once a season, the POC gets together for one of the true tests for sports cars, endurance racing. While it may not be as long and as grueling as Le Mans, their 3-hour event at Autoclub is a tough one. Will the drivers be able to step up to the challenge? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 15 of the Porsche Owners Club Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Autoclub's road course might not be as familiar to most race fans, so let's head down to our track guide to learn more. Welcome to Autoclub Speedway. Located in a prime location directly east of Los Angeles, it's been used in many Hollywood films. While the oval portion of this track is more well-known, the road course has hosted everything from club racing all the way up to top-tier sports cars. The variety in layouts makes it well-suited to higher and lower-powered cars, as well as everything in between. Of the 3 circuits available, they range between 3 miles and 1.5 miles, but all of them are quite technical and have between 17 and 21 corners. Naturally, the fastest parts will always be those that utilize the oval, but they end in quite heavy braking zones. The infield has some surprisingly difficult corners, such as the hairpin, which starts with a fast chicane and then trips you up by forcing you to brake on a curve. The exit back onto the oval also comes with its own challenges, wherein some cars find themselves losing grip as they pick up speed. Plus, the transition onto the banking can be jarring if you let the car swing too wide. A good handling setup will be critical to your lap times for sure. Well, DJ, it's going to be a tough one, perhaps the toughest race that these drivers experience. But how do you think these Porsches are going to behave here at Auto Club?
Well, they're going to have the best of both worlds, Joe. The way the Auto Club Roval is set out, it's very traditional in that sense. You've got a long run all the way from turn 18 all the way down to turn 3, taking advantage of the traditional 2-mile D-oval that Fontana is. Then you get the dive down into turn 3, one of the heaviest braking zones on the entire circuit, into what is a pretty quick left-right chicane. That's going to be a good overtaking opportunity, taking full advantage of the draft around the D-oval itself. From there on out, you're going to have a little bit trouble trying to find a good area to overtake unless a driver in front of you makes a mistake. The tricky combination of turns 6 and 7 may throw a few people off, as well as the chicane into 9 and 10. And then the sort of slower S's section from turns 12 all the way to 15 may get a few people out as well. But I think really and truly what these drivers are going to have to focus on today is just keeping their heads down, and if they make a mistake, remembering that this is 3 hours and they've got plenty of time to make it up.
It's literally a 3-hour tour today. And before we get to that tour, let's talk about our sponsors, which include Porsche. There is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And Sunset Mortgage. Don't put your money in the bank, be the bank. Check them out today at sunsetcash.net, as well as Octavio Tequila. Celebrate now. For a great tasting tequila, go to octaviotequila.com and purchase today. And finally, Century Financial Consultants, making the rest of your life the best of your life. You can check out their website at centuryretire.com. We take a glance at the championship. The GT1 drivers currently have Travis Brown ahead, but Corey Latvala has chopped off 4 more points, and it is down to 12 now. Michael W. Johnson finds himself at least back in the hunt, and the drop rounds will certainly help him there as well. But then it stays very close between himself, BJ Fulton, and Brian Salehi. Salehi, another one that is expecting those drop rounds to help him out significantly, as he has not showed up for a few weeks now. What about the GT2 championship?
Well, in that GT2 championship, it's much of the same story we've been talking about all season. Jerry Freckleton continues to lead by a pretty colossal 44 points over John Momeyer. Aaron Edwards about the same distance back from Momeyer, but Tyler King there in third, making things interesting. King in fourth, rather hoping to get up to third. Adam Fulton only 4 points back of King, so a tight battle there relatively for that final three positions, but Freckleton and Momeyer really the class of the field.
As for this race, because as we said, it's different, let's go over the race details, and it's got a few things that will stand out. It is still the Porsche Cayman and the Porsche RSR, the GTE class car, that are going to be racing in the two classes. It is a 3-hour event, 180 minutes, but it is a team race, so drivers will be working together to get to the end of this, and it is still open setup for that. The other significant thing about this event is that they are actually running this over at Autoclub this weekend. So this will act as a bit of practice for some of our drivers, with this being a scan of the real thing. Now, obviously, they're not going to be running RSRs, as those are pretty expensive high-end machines, but they will see some Caymans out there, as well as some other fantastic Porsche cars racing in their actual Porsche Owners Club out in California. Framheim is our driver on the pole for that GTE class, the GT1s, as he is currently racing with Michael W. Johnson out there today, and Mark Rondeau has the provisional pole in the GT2. He's got Michael Bolton as his teammate.
Does indeed. There you see Michael Ost coming across the line. Everybody putting in as much practice as they can during this qualifying session, just getting a feel for the track. One of the things that is important to know about Fontana is it is a bumpy track, specifically on the back stretch, and they don't get too much of that until they turn into turn 3, but it can definitely throw you off a little bit, and especially in these GT cars, upset the suspensions a little bit. Teddy Framheim taking his sweet time to come across the line there. You can see those patches put in. Teddy getting up to speed here to try another flying lap.
Because this one's definitely not going to be a flying lap unless he gets going a little bit faster, I imagine. Now, the other thing that will differ here because of the length of this race, we did have VIR, which was an enduro, not quite the same distance as this event, DJ. That gave us a little bit of a taste of what the pit stops are like. But otherwise, most of these drivers haven't really been having to deal with pit stops this season. What do they need to do to get ready for that today?
Well, they've just got to really practice the pit in and pit out here. Pit in being the most important. It is a little bit tricky. You're coming through a double left-handed curve of 16 and 17, and you've got to get onto the binders to make sure you get it just right. Now, it's not nearly as tricky as it is when you're coming in off of the traditional D-oval. So you see Nico Silva there looking like he's going to come to a stop on that pit lane. So they're going to have to get used to that. The other thing that they're probably going to want to do is make sure that they've got a button programmed on their wheel or be using some kind of aid to make sure that they don't always take tires. These GT cars, you don't need to change every time you get some fuel in, and that extra time spent changing tires could come back to bite you in the race.
One thing that'll be fun to watch is the sun setting. Now, I'm not sure if the drivers will find it as fun, as the light's going to start to go away, and this is not a super well-lit track, although they will have some. But it's already at past 7 p.m. virtual standard time. So by the time they get to the checkered flag, it is going to be a night race here at Autoclub. This is Shulam now coming across in his GT4 car. Last of those drivers right now, 7th in class. And as he crosses, that one's not going to count. So he's going to have to cycle back around and try once more. It does take a fair bit of time for those GT4 cars to get around this track. And this is Bayan Salehi in the meantime in the 15, who currently is 3rd out of the 5 here. Looks like that's not going to be an improvement for him. They do have those 45 minutes, so they have quite some time. Kind of surprised we're not seeing some teams try and work with one another to get some slipstream on this banking.
I am too, Joe. Maybe a little bit of competitive nature coming in, and this will be a nice little test to see just how accurate iRacing is with the sunset, as being a Californian about 2 hours west of this exact track, I can tell you that it is 7:55 Pacific time, and the sun is setting, and there's still a little daylight in the sky, so we may have to be tracking that over the course of the race.
So Michael Ost, the next one here. He's in second currently on our timing sheets, and he's got to make up 0.8 of a second, which is a pretty big gap. He's also got to try and get himself away from Salehi, who's less than 1/10 behind him. So he could lose that front row starting spot pretty easily out here. One thing I would love to see, I'm trying to see if we can find a GT4 heading through turn 1. Yeah, BJ Fulton right here. Could we ride on board? Do they have to lift through this? Is there enough push in this car that is going to be marginal?
I believe I did take the GT4 out. I think you can take it flat, Joe. The banking here at Fontana, it's a super wide track. You don't really have, it's not like you're running Texas or something like that. It is wide enough and flat enough that you really can take it pretty flat out, even in the lower downforce GT4s. Now, if there's a little bit of aero wash in front of you, that I don't know. I wasn't able to test.
And they'll definitely experience that off of the GTE cars. Going to punch a big hole in the air. This is a windy infield with some very hard to spot corners, especially here. You dive through a chicane, full tilt, and then you have to brake into turn 10, which includes turn 9, that little kink that you saw, accelerating off of there. And they get another little chicane, but this one again is flat out, no lifting. So you're going to see a lot of cones flying as they come down the backstretch in that infield. And then yet another chicane. So they're going to be dealing with a lot of changing weight on the car, I have to imagine. So a compliant and well-rounded car is probably going to be so important today, I imagine.
For sure, Joe. You want something that you can really feel comfortable with. With an endurance race like this, there you see that tricky pit entrance that I was talking about earlier and how you got to kind of angle the car to the left. With an endurance race like this, yes, you do want outright speed. You want to be able to go fast and take everything that you can at the car. But at the same time, you want something that's not going to suddenly snap on you 2 laps into the race. You want something that you feel comfortable with and that feel like you can drive for an hour and a half, as these guys are doing this in teams, so they will be swapping over drivers. So you want to feel like you could be in this car for a long time.
That was Robin there in the 929 that you saw just flying around the outside, and that didn't help his lap. Right now, Silva has the quickest one, and the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu team currently sitting 4th on the grid. This is Robinson on the front row of the GT2 class. He's teamed up with Bacignone. See if he can go faster. No, not going to be that time. Last one was his quickest at a 39.866, just about 0.2 off of perhaps one of the best team names I've seen in a while, Shaved Monkey Racing for the 171.
It's an image I'm not sure I needed as an owner of a hairless cat. I can tell you it's not exactly the prettiest thing when you see something completely shaved. But there, Corey Lotvala is setting an invalid time, but coming on around. He in that RSR will be able to keep it down easily flat through those corners. We get a little battle at the top between these top teams. I have to say it's going to be very exciting to see those RSRs battling potentially 2-3 wide on the Big D Oval.
Are you saying that my beautifully shaved head is not gorgeous? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I was not implying your head at all. I'm telling you that I love the cat dearly, but it is an ugly, ugly thing.
Well, Michael Ryan Johnson, as we have both Michael Johnsons with us, is not able to improve on the 140.1 he set earlier. He stays in 5th, so we turn back to Raban once again. And yeah, this is a slow lap for him as he crosses once more. 1 minute left to go, so those coming across the line will have to complete this last flying lap. Some of them might even be on their last lap and take the checkered flag here soon. Trying to see who might be doing that. Looks like Oviat potentially will be our first to take the checkered flag.
Yeah, I think that's about right. Michael Ost here going to cross over the line. You know, this was a 40-minute session, and as the time does wane down, Joe, I have to say these times are getting longer and longer around the track. It's not to be surprised as the sun sets, the track temperature is going to dip a little bit, and that is going to cause some slightly slower times, especially considering the track temperature is as low as 75 degrees right now. Low humidity, so not a whole lot of downforce to be generated for these cars.
Abrams gets one just in time, and he'll get one more lap as I think Adam Fulton also managed to cross before the checkered flag wave, but just barely. This is Momeyer. He's going to be the first to take the checkered flag, so I was a little off. The number 6 sits in 6th and will stay in 6th. And next is Oviatt in the number 4.
Yeah, there's Oviatt making his way out of that final corner. You don't want to take too much of that exit curbing because you want all 4 tires down on the ground to get maximum launch off of the line. Be a slow lap there for Oviatt. I think he's probably just going to be parking it. Next in line, though, it looks like it's going to be Michael Robon to cross over. Let's see if he's able to go any faster.
The time counts, but it is about a second off of his quickest. Looked like MRJ also abandoned his final lap, so he wasn't happy with it. Michael Ost is next for the GT1 class. He's on the front row, but he's got a huge bit of time to try and make up to get the pole away, and he's not going to get it. He is definitely off the pace this lap. He tries for it anyways. Travis Brown set their quickest time. That is the last of our qualifiers here in this round. 3-hour event about to kick off under the setting California sun, getting ready to dip into the ocean here at Autoclub Speedway for round 15. This is still a championship round. We have to stress in this Porsche Owners Club 2021 championship. This is a full year-long racing championship that they have been competing in. So this will give out just as many points as the others. And you not only have your own on the line, but your teammates on the line now too.
Yeah, indeed. That's going to throw a little bit of a change into everything that we're seeing out here. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. Maybe some drivers with a little bit more to lose in terms of the championship, racing a little bit harder.
It is thankfully pretty good conditions out there today at about 75 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface, and only going to continue to get cooler as the sun sets and no longer beats down on the tarmac. Looks like they have now switched over to that race session, so let's go through our starting order today. Body Motion Racing will be on the pole with RSR Addicts starting next to them. It'll be CLBS Racing in 3rd place as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu starts 4th. Team Jacob Abrams will be P5.
In the first place in the GT2 category, it is going to be Shaved Monkey Racing, followed by Team RoboBach with Fulton Racing Team in 3rd place and AZ986 Racers lining up outside of them. Team MJ Drive will be in 5th, followed by Fear the Fork, and Shulam Edwards will be lining up in 7th.
So 11 cars taking part in today's event. Still should give us quite a bit of fun. And also, we can't forget that this is the long haul. The drivers, neither one can give up today, DJ. I've seen and participated in so many endurance races where just staying out there, sticking with it, even if you had a problem early on, has netted good results.
Exactly, Joe. Patience, persistence, and endurance, as it would make sense, is the name of the game in a long race like this. You've just got to stick with it. You've just got to know that you cannot stop, because you never know what can happen to those drivers in front of you, and what may seem like a tragic situation 60 minutes later can turn into a podium. Corey
Latvala starting from 3rd. Remember, he just got his 3rd win of the season last time around. But his rival is starting on the row ahead of him, Travis Brown, in 2nd place. We should get going here behind the Porsche pace car pretty soon, because we do have everyone on the grid. There we go. Short pace lap as we start just before the last few corners, which is surrounded by a ton of cones, helping the drivers know where exactly the track goes and how to stay within the boundaries of that. Hopefully shouldn't be too much of an issue, as they do have quite a few incidents on that incident limit. In fact, it's until 48 that they will actually get a drive-through penalty, and 104 will disqualify them from the race completely. There goes the Porsche pace car starting to head down the lane, and Teddy Framheim is back looking to take another victory. The 106 waiting patiently for that green flag. Look at that beautiful shot down the front stretch. He's given it a long time. He can go when he wants, but he's waiting and making sure everybody stays checked up for it. When are we going to get this green flag? There it goes. Green flag is out. The 106 not off very well in comparison to Travis Brown, who's got a pretty good run to his outside. So does Latvala and Silva up around them, and they're already feeling the effects of the slipstream, and Silva's got an open run around the outside.
Indeed he does. Oh, and look at that along the outside, 3 wide, almost coming off of the turn 2 complex, hard braking down into that tricky chicane that we talked about. There's a little bit of contact up front.
4 wide into that corner, but it is Latvala who comes out ahead. Framheim falls back to second. Abrams had a go at things. He started all the way from 5th in that group. He's into 3rd now, managing to get through 2, but had a clumsy move into the corner. Behind them, it is Baccignona who is leading in the Team Robobach car with Oviat behind.
Yeah, that was a good jump off of the line for Doug Baccignoni. Really able to get the power down quickly and get going. But behind them, just trying to hold things together. You can see Mark Rondeau starting to put a little bit of pressure on Eric Oviat in front of him. Everybody's starting to get a little bit calm here, single file through this infield section.
So it looks like that lead spot is not what you want to be in when you get onto the oval, because they slipstream past both of our leaders pretty easily. Oh, there was a big bit of wheel spin from Jacob Abrams. Oh, and he's going to spin into the side of, is that Nico Silva? Silva into the wall. They have a spare car if they need it. Question is, does he want to take it this early? And the answer is yes. He's heading into pit lane. Here's the incident. It's going to be a spinning car, Abrams in the red and white in front of him.
I think Abrams got a little bit of help on that, and that's what sent Silva spinning around. You see him locking the brakes, just trying to hold that thing together. Too much front nose pressure. But Joe, we've got a pass potentially for P1 in GT2.
Side by side with Latvala and Framheim. And they come down through the chicane into the infield portion with Corey at the front once again, not allowing the 106 past him as they accelerate back towards turn 10. He could have a pass if he wants to be aggressive, but I think he's too far behind.
Yeah, just a little bit too far back as they work their way through that tricky sequence that we talked about. Oh, but that's a run wide.
He loses some time, but he holds it together. Don't forget about Travis Brown behind them. There you can see with the yellow rims on that 300 Porsche. So he's starting to gain some time on that. He wants to get back into this as he started on the front row, and he's got a championship to fight for. In fact, this is his championship rival that he is behind right now. He's going to get a great tow down the front stretch as long as he can keep the car pointed the right way off of here. Big bump onto the banking, and that actually may have hurt him. He starts to fall backwards.
Yeah, you've got to be a little bit more smooth when you make that transition up onto the banking. That's why a lot of these guys are choosing to run down on the apron there as a way to get around. So that really cost Brown some time, and you can see him falling back big time. That gap all the way back to about 2.5 seconds already.
Trying to figure out if that was the banking or if he had a cut course penalty, because he just got passed by Abrams as well. Yeah, I think Travis Brown may have cut the course and had to serve a slowdown and lost all of his speed. So Abrams up into P3. Silva back out on track, but not fully a lap down. They're still a long ways behind. Oh my goodness, Doug Baccignoni also losing a lot of spots down onto the entry of the infield through turn 3. Not sure what's going on with the Kermit the Frog car.
Yeah, he has dropped all the way down back into 5th place in class, so not very good there, but we keep our eyes focused on Jacob Abrams as he tries to pull away here a little bit from Travis Brown. Brown doing his best job to keep up behind him.
So not sure if Abrams' first bit of practice was coming in and doing those qualifying laps, but if it was, he's doing an impressive job and seems to have much more speed considering the lack of qualifying laps. Way wide for Brown behind him, kicking up a lot of cones as they come onto the straight. This is going to mean a tow for the 300 machine. Abrams keeps it down to the bottom of the racetrack. Going to let it drift back up as we get a little cloud cover. The sun getting lower and lower in the sky. Up to the high side, here comes Brown.
That's going to be a good move for Travis if he can hold that down. Keeping it on, all the power in. He's going to be on the unpreferred line going into turn 3. There you can see Abrams covers him off, looking for a little bit of an over-under. I think he may get it as they go over. He's certainly, he was hoping for a little bit of a crossover there, but not able to get it. He's going to keep his hopes alive into the double apex left-hander of turn 5. He has a little bit of a tighter line there. Definitely keeping the pressure on to Jacob Abrams here. This is exactly what he needs to do. Not be too aggressive, but just keep that pressure up.
Abrams' biggest fan right now is Corey Lotfula because he's just pulling away. Big lockup down into turn 10 from Jacob Abrams, and yet Brown's still not able to get underneath him. They are 4.5 seconds behind Lotfula is what I was about to say. And Lotfula can now set chase on Framheim ahead of him instead of worrying about being caught by his rival.
Yeah, indeed, and that'll be good news for him. We're going to jump back over here to the GT2 lead. Now, as we said, Eric Oviatt and Mark Rondeau working their way up. Rondeau taking a little bit of an advantage of Bacchignone's problem there. So he's back in second, just trying to see what he can do. And that behind them, that is the Team MJ drive car. That is Michael Ryan Johnson, as he is keeping them hot in his clutches as well. So really a 3-way battle for the lead. They've got about a 2.5 second gap over Freckleton in 4th.
It was a very bad entry into the chicane from MRJ, and you can see how much time he lost from that. I think he'll be able to collect it back up in the slipstream as they come back onto the oval now, although he's bouncing all over the curbs. Not what you want when you're accelerating at almost 100 miles an hour. As they cross the line to start lap 4. Wonder when we're going to see some of these GT1 cars start to lap them as well. That's the other thing we haven't talked about a whole bunch, is that could play a part in how this race unfolds, is dealing with the traffic, as Freckleton and Bacchignone are both on pit lane.
Interesting. I'm not sure why they'd be down there, Joe. Let me check this out.
Yeah, see if we could discover if they had some damage, or are they going for a bit of a reverse strategy maybe here on the fuel. Both of them managing to find their stops, their pit stalls, and they are going to be lapped now, but not on the track, as that is Framheim, who is going by on lap 6 now with a clear bit of track in front of him. Lotfula 4.1 seconds back. Back to Oviatt and Rondeau, along with MRJ, even though he gave up a little bit of time last time through. Looks like he's been able to collect himself and keep within distance to make those two a little nervous. Let's see if this one's better for that white car into the chicane.
Looks like he's able to close up a little bit, taking a big bunch of the curb is Mark Rondeau, looking very good to maybe make a challenge here to Eric Oviatt.
He's going to want that slipstream. On to the main straight. Oviatt in the number 69 being chased by the 171. He's fairly close. They start to pick up pace, already 130 miles an hour as they cross the line once again.
Now remember, these GT4s, the draft's not going to be nearly as important in the GTEs, but it still will play a part when you are traveling at speeds of excess of 150 miles an hour. You're definitely going to have a little bit of the draft, so let's see here how Mark Rondeau takes it. He's going to try to move to the outside there. You can see all of that excess speed. Oviatt's not going to let him have it easy, and there's contact.
He points him back forward, though, just a little nudge. And Rondeau is able to keep going. Hopefully he didn't damage the suspension with that touch. MRJ, thankfully, able to get out of it as well so that he didn't run into that mess. Looked a little wide off the apex there, did Mark Rondeau. So hard to tell if that was from damage or just kind of feeling out the car. 3 mile an hour difference is what I could tell between the pair of them down out of turn 2.
That's about what I was clocking as well, Joe, and that's with him pulling out of the draft there to get that going. So definitely an advantage there. Now, this is going to get a little bit interesting on 2 levels. Number 1, Jerry Freckleton and Doug Boccignoni are just up the road from these guys, not too far ahead. And number 2, they have Nico Silva catching them as well. So there's a little bit of double traffic coming into play.
And the plot thickens. So, as the drivers watch the sunset here in the first 10 minutes of this race, your current leaders are Framheim and Oviatt in GT1 and GT2 respectively. This is on board with Freckleton, one of the first to make pit stops along with Boccignoni in the 6 and 581 cars. And it looks like I thought I saw a change of position, but I think that's Nico Silva finally getting past all the GT2 cars that overtook him after his pit stop. So Silva now has an idea of how far ahead he has to go to get to the next cars, and it's 52 seconds up the road.
Indeed, Joe. And I watched both Freckleton and Boccignoni's pit stops. They seemed relatively normal, so I'm not sure what happened there. Either I think it's the strategy, as you were saying, of maybe you're trying to reverse engineer the fuel strategy, or the only other possibility that I can think of is that they were running qualifying fuel levels and had to come in because they forgot to reset.
Yeah, either seems really feasible, but that seems like such a silly mistake, especially with the teammate there to help them to make sure that the right setup was in there. So I don't know. Hopefully we'll be able to talk to one of their teammates perhaps mid-race and see if they can fill us in on what's going on, if they're willing to divulge any of their strategic decisions in this event. In the meantime, we've been watching this a lot because this is the best battle here for first place in the GT2s. Oviatt, Rondeau, and Ryan Johnson.
Keeping our eyes out the back of Mark Rondeau's machine right there, now jumping over to jump on board with MJR. You can see they're starting to space out a little bit here. The gap's holding at about 0.5 of a second across the board. Breaking the draft a little bit there is Mark Rondeau, just trying to find it. Looks like Michael may have a little bit of a run here. Looks very good, hugging that low line to good advantage. He may try to make a move going into 3.
Looks to the high side. Rondeau had contact last time. He was dealing with another car, and he goes in very, very deep on Oviatt, gaining a lot of time. A desperate poke to the inside from Ryan Johnson. Oh, and a spin! That was our leader! The AZ9086 Racers machine is off and into the barrier, and that was his own mistake.
Oh no, absolutely heartbreaking there. As you can see here, he comes down, takes a lot of that curbing. Oh, just got the left rear tire onto the grass, Joe, and that's what sent him around. Pretty decent knock to the left rear of that car. Hopefully he'll be okay and able to continue on without too much damage. As we said, remember, it's a very long race out here.
Yeah, he lost 12 seconds, but his pace has been good, and we don't know how much quicker he could potentially be on race pace because Rondeau and Ryan Johnson have been holding on to the back of him. There goes the GT1 car of Latvala, second place driver in that class, just flashing his lights as a thank you as he goes by.
You'll see that a lot out of these drivers of the Porsche Owner Club. A lot of respect here between drivers. This is a learning experience. They just like to come out and do this. Watching here, Oviatt trying to keep at bay behind him. That's Adam Fulton, who's been able to close in courtesy of that spin. You can see that speed difference coming out of the final corner. It looks like Oviatt's going to pit.
Oh, no. So the 69 machine is going to, I think, potentially take his spare car here, as here we go for the lead in the GT2 class. Ryan Johnson thinks about it. Rondeau says, no, you don't yet. And he'll hold him behind. They continue to close on Doug and Jerry just ahead of him as they're being caught by our leader in the GT1s. Framheim doesn't really need to pass right here. He could get a good run down this straight before the chicane, but is he going to be held up between them?
He might be as they continue to close. You see Framheim, oh yeah, he's gonna hold right in between. MJR is not gonna be happy about that, as that may slow him down a little bit. Riding on board with your GT1 leader here, the 106. There you see the blast as he gets a little bit more straight line speed. He'll now have Baccignoni to deal with. But yeah, Michael Ryan Johnson definitely falling back a little bit.
The one that loves that is Corey Latvala. He gained about half a second on Teddy that time through. The traffic clearly going to be a big talking point, because losing half a second could wind up costing you a position. And in fact, he's not going to get the exit that he wants here onto the main straight. So it's coming down even further now, a full second more, even almost 2 seconds it looks like that he lost from that.
Oh, that is not going to be good news, and especially with where they're catching here. Look how quickly he's able to get by, and he's going to get at the benefit of the draft there as well, so I think that gap's going to diminish even more, Joe.
Yeah, it's up to 2.5 seconds, down to 2.5 seconds, really. Teddy into the braking zone. Corey goes around the outside of those GT4s. Looks like it stabilizes at about 2.5. That goes by the battle between Freckleton and Baccignoni, as well as Rondeau and Ryan Johnson. They're going to get interrupted for a third time, really. Travis Brown up next.
Yeah, Travis is up the road, or back on the road from them, so this is going to be another little interesting thing here, this dual battle that's going on. Baccignoni's been kind of all over the back here of Freckleton as you can see there do that, but the gap has ebbed and flowed here and there as it's gone along.
Things getting really tight down there for those last 2 spots. And in fact, that looks like Jerry may be giving it up to Baccignoni. Yes, just as, barely finding the space, Travis Brown somehow gets by all 4 of them safely.
Not really sure how Travis was able to manage that, but managed it quite well. There you can see him swinging around. Yeah, Jerry letting Baccignoni by, recognizing that excess of speed. And now as these guys get caught by the leaders in the category, it's going to change things up a little bit here. This is going to be very interesting to see what happens in that GT2 race with Rondeau and Johnson now bearing down the back of Baccignoni and Freckleton. Is that going to slow them up a little bit?
Yeah, they're probably getting blue flags, but those are informational only. They are not required to leap out of the way. They just can't hinder the 171 and the 3 car. And this is a good run out of Ryan Johnson, but he doesn't go for the pass. I think that's a pass down to the inside. Very late move from the yellow number 171. He's going to be given space as Freckleton tries not to hold him up, but he's very, very slow, and it will cost him time on the 581 car.
Oh, and that's going to be Jacob Abrams coming by as well, so that's some more bad news there for Michael Ryan Johnson. I think the reason why Rondeau took that super aggressive dive in, Joe, was to just try to get that pass done and get a car in between the 2 of them. It was very heads up.
There was either some sort of mistake. I'm trying to see. Yeah, I think it was just a mistake from the 15 car, and I can't figure out where, because Corey Latvala has dropped back about 0.7 of a second from Framheim this lap. I think either Teddy's got way better pace than him, or Corey can't be as consistent. It was a 30.7 from Teddy and a 31.4 from Corey. Now that 31.4 does look to be comparative to his regular lap, so this must mean that Teddy, once in clear air, just has immense pace over that CLBS Racing 15 car.
Yeah, indeed. I've been watching his laps here. He just really and truly has that thing dialed in at this point. Now remember, because this is a 3-hour endurance race, we are dealing with some variable conditions here. And It will get a little bit cooler. It may be that Teddy's set up, and oh, Joe, we're side by side for the lead of GT2.
That is Ryan Johnson on the high side in the white car. Down low, Rondeau doesn't want to give it away yet. They're even under braking as they pinch down to the apex. Rondeau gives them a ton of space, opens up the exit of the corner, and somehow finds the launch. What a brilliant comeback from that yellow machine.
Color me impressed on that move from Mark Rondeau. That was a heck of a defense there from the 171. Michael Ryan Johnson now is just going to have to try to regather it, get another good run out of those final corners, and maybe take another shot in a couple of laps.
Only 4 cars to have stopped at this point as the 929 of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the 69 of AC 986 Racers, the 581 of Team Robobach, and the 6 of Fear the Fork. Otherwise, we're still waiting on the first pit stop for everybody else 20 minutes into this event. Question is, when will the pit stops be for the GT1s? Because those tend to go a little bit more than 50 minutes on a full tank of gas. But this is also a thirsty track with a long, flat-out stretch along the front straight and into turns 1 and 2. So how do you play that one out?
Well, if you're lucky enough to be able to take some draft, I would say you can save a good amount of fuel in it, but the GT1s are spaced out enough at this point. Nobody's really able to do that. So, Joe, with all of that in mind, I'm anticipating pit stops around 45 to 55 minutes. That's about when we should see them coming in for the first time. Now, once again, we're going to have to check and see, for example, in these GT4s what it is, as there's Michael Ryan Johnson thinking about it again. Better under braking, going for that over-under potentially, but it looks like that Mark Rondeau is able to hold him off.
It's getting valuable information, though, as I think Michael is picking up little tidbits here and there. Once again, very wide through the first part, but I think intentionally so. I think Rondeau is trying to square off that second apex. My only worry is that he's opening up the door on the entry down there into turn 5. So I wonder if there could be a sneak attack from Michael Ryan Johnson, just kind of lull him into a sense of security and get the good exit off of that entry chicane and then kind of snipe him down into that left-hander.
I think that may be what he's doing. We've seen some very cagey driving in the past from Michael Ryan Johnson, and I think this time out, that may be very much what he is doing. In an endurance race like this, half of what getting by is learning your dancing partner's habits, learning what they're good at and what their mistakes are. And so that could be a very crucial thing that he is doing at this point. Loses a little bit of ground there coming through the last part of the track. He'll gain a little bit of it back here as they gets able to tuck up behind Rondeau in the draft. But yeah, Michael Ryan Johnson running a very smart race here, testing his competitor as much as possible.
And still definitely in contention for the win. Now, the other one that you have to wonder about is where did Oviat's car go? Oh, that's Matt Hollander actually in that one right now. After the pit stop, they swapped out in the 69. So something we should make note of as we go side by side once again. But it seems that Michael Ryan Johnson keeps picking that outside line, which doesn't give him the spot. And the Shaved Monkey Racing Porsche will retain the lead.
Yes, it will, and I think part of the reason he's having to do that is some stout defense there from Rondeau. Oh, very wide there on the exit from Mark Rondeau. He's able to keep his speed up, though, so it's not going to hurt him too much. But Rondeau doing a very good job to defend around turn 2 and keep that car low. I think Michael Ryan Johnson knows that it's going to be a lot harder to get his number 3 down to the inside there.
Some of this slipping and sliding around that's been happening too. Yes, I know it's going to be a night race eventually, but you still got to be concerned about the tires. They can still wear these things out. And the right sides particularly, you consider that long, flat-out NASCAR 1 and 2. Should they maybe be thinking long-term here? Should maybe the likes of Ryan Johnson try to sit back and not attack as much to hold on to it better?
Well, that would be my strategy, Joe, but sometimes when you're in that position and you are behind the wheel, you just kind of get that red mist that comes over and you can only think attack, attack, attack. And normally I would say that I'd be watching out for guys like Adam Fulton or Jeffrey Shulam behind them, but the gap is so massive at this point, 27 seconds, that it's really not going to matter at that point if they are that close around. Let's see here if Michael decides to make another move. He's going to go to the outside again. There's space down to the inside if he wants to do it. I think he just prefers that outside line diving in. He can carry some good speed through the corner, not have to turn nearly as much for the second one, but Rondeau able to keep a good advantage there.
I was watching the speed between them, though. Remember how we figured out a little earlier it was maybe about 3 miles an hour difference if you're in the slipstream. Well, it's 5 miles an hour difference between them. And remember, he's been consistently catching up to him. I'm starting to suspect that Marc Rondeau may have damaged that 171 when he had contact with Oviatt.
Oh, yes, he did, Joe. I haven't noticed it until now, but if we can get an angle on the back of that car, there is some pretty significant damage. Looks like a perfect car-sized punch in the back of it. So there is definite rear damage to Marc Rondeau, and that will certainly affect his top speed.
Yeah, you can see it there from that angle now that I look at it. Interesting. So that's been making life hard for him. That also, likely, if it's causing that drag, is going to cost him some fuel efficiency too. And I just saw Jacob Abrams with a spin. Let's see if we can get a replay on the 728. He's not been having a good day here. And this was into turn 3. There it is right there.
I'm going to do an onboard here with Jacob. I think he just carried too much speed into the corner, locked up the rear brakes as he was trying to dive down for it. Yeah, there you go. Yep, just too much speed in, locking up those rears, able to send around. Lucky he did not catch any of the tire barrier there, but Jacob will be able to continue back on relatively no harm, no foul.
And he's still ahead of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu machine, which is now 35 seconds behind him. He did lose enough time that Jacob has seen that cut in half. Real question will be when he takes the pit stops, how that'll all shake out. So he takes out a few cones on his way back onto the oval and hits the banking extremely hard. Kind of wonder if they're damaging the undersides of the cars whenever they do that.
They might. I'm worried about the undersides of the cars, and I'm worried about that front splitter, Joe. In the GT1s, that generates a lot of downforce for these machines, and if they damage that, that can really affect the front end grip.
Wouldn't be surprised. Affect the handling as well in some of those more technical portions, like he's getting into now, back into the infield section of the track. Did Michael Ryan Johnson finally lose a bit of the slipstream on Marc Rondeau, because he's been drifting farther and farther back? It's now up to 1.1 seconds.
Yeah, he did
keep an eye on this. Go ahead.
He did lose a little bit of it. He's got it down to 1 second right now, but there is still a speed advantage for Michael Ryan Johnson. Yeah, big time. He's about 3-4 miles an hour faster. So definitely that damage coming back to hurt Marc Rondeau here a little bit.
Yeah, we're riding on board. You could see the speed difference between them live there. And it did get up to, once again, about 5 miles an hour difference. And that was without much of the draft, as he was pretty far behind starting off on that straightaway. And now into the infield section. Things getting a little dark now. We got, obviously, a bit of sun still in the sky, some orange kind of glowing on the horizon all around. But the lights on the track are on, the lights on the cars are on. And that infield is going to be the least lit of this circuit. So they've got to really keep their wits about them, especially when they've got cars approaching from behind, making sure they're aware of which class is coming up.
Yeah, and that's where those off-the-line flashing of the lights are really going to come into play. If you're the faster car, make sure you get that flash on and get it clear and intent that you are coming on through. Continue to watch this battle. Michael Ryan Johnson able to catch up here pretty well. He's able to get that gap back down.
Yeah, that was a very good lap for him, down to 6/10. It was over a second last time onto the oval. And a bit of flashing of the lights there from Rondeau, but he's behind. Not sure what that was about. They're going to get lapped once again by our leader in the GT1s, Teddy Framheim.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the flashing of the lights there was, Joe. That may have just been an errant press on the steering wheel for Rondeau, depending on where he's got his buttons mapped. Obviously, all of them are interchangeable, so that may have just been a little bit of a problem.
Wasn't able to get close enough that time by, but the first half an hour has come through in this 3-hour event. We're going to step away for a short break. We'll come back with more racing here in round 15 of the Porsche Owners Club, the 3-hour enduro tribute to Le Mans here at Autoclub Speedway. Welcome back to Autoclub Speedway. It's round 15 for the Porsche Owners Club Series. It's their 3-hour enduro tribute to Le Mans. And up at the front is this man in this purple 106 body motion racing car, Teddy Framheim, who is sharing this machine today with Michael W. Johnson. Has kicked things off and been able to hold on to the lead after starting on the pole. Granted, he briefly gave it away with some challenges into turn 3 that got a little messy. And then up at the front of the GT2 class, it is Marc Rondeau. Also started on the pole and also saw the lead slip away briefly. But now that he has been able to shake Michael Ryan Johnson during that break, it's a gap that has gone up to 6.4 seconds, down from what was hovering between 3/10 and a second. The Shaved Monkey Racing 171 is out in the clear and just kind of focusing on their own thing. They're coming up to lap the green number 581 of Doug Boccignone, just ahead of him, who's already taken a pit stop. So he's slightly off cycle, and we're not sure if that is a strategic call or if they got some damage. They also did that the same as the number 6 team, the Fear of the Fort guys, with Jerry Freckleton currently in that car. Other than that, we've only had, I believe, one driver change. Oh, Nico Silva just went off. Nico Silva, who's already had a pit stop due to some damage earlier on, has found himself spinning out of turn 4.
All right, so this is the run down into the chicane. Silva able to get on the binder, so not the problem we saw Abrams have earlier. Runs it there. Oh, we've seen that before too, Joe. Just getting those left side tires out onto the grass, just a little bit of it, and that'll send you right around. Silva able to recover the car, but that car's still running in the back of the GT1 category right now, 1 lap down.
Yeah, that was almost a carbon copy, but different class. It was the number 69, the AZ 986 Racers, when Oviat was still in that machine, which is a good segue back to what I was just talking about. That's the only team that has switched drivers already. Matt Hollander hopped into that car and has been running since lap 9. We are now 45 minutes into this race. They're on lap 20 at this stage. So Hollander's actually run more laps than his teammate with that early switch. But things now starting to spread apart a little bit. As a driver, did you like this? Do you like this part of endurance races, DJ, or do you prefer to really keep the action going? Is it something where you need something to keep you awake, or you kind of like to get into a little comfort zone?
Well, it's a mix of both, Joe. I like the excitement of battling one-on-one with somebody and really keeping that action up. But once you start to spread apart a little bit, what you start doing is you start focusing on the driver in front of you. You look at those relative times and you say, okay, that's 4.7 seconds ahead. Let's see if I can get it down to 4.6 on the next lap. And you start setting those little targets for yourself. And especially when you start to run in the night, that gets really, really enticing and absolutely enthralling. And that's what you start to focus on. Now, that mimics real life when you've got your crew chief and your strategist in your ear saying, this is the delta that you need to be driving to right now. And it's one of the things that I most like about endurance racing. Now, obviously, this is only a 2-class field, but when we get into the 3-class fields, you're kind of always on your toes because you've always got somebody either that you're trying to pass or that's passing you.
Yeah, it certainly never leaves you wanting. Oh no, Abrams must have had some big contact because he's smoking on pit lane. Try to see if I can find how long ago this was. This happened between Abrams and Freckleton, actually, in the chicane. So we'll need to back up maybe about 30 seconds here. Yeah, okay. So if we go to the 728 now, yeah, this just happened. Back it up about 30 seconds more. We'll get this. Yeah, here we go.
Big lock up there coming through turn 8. Working their way through the chicane. Oh, a little bit of net code, little bit of misjudgment. Big thwap of the wall there for Jacob Abrams. That's going to be very, very tough there for the 728. Kudos for not taking a tow, driving that thing all the way back around to the pits.
He thought Freckleton was going to drift farther off to the right, and that 6 car, unfortunately, was involved as well. He also comes in, think maybe taking his spare car. That's the 2nd stop already for that number 6, and is way behind the 8 ball this early on. This is Travis Brown on screen now, heading through that similar section of track where it just... I wish I could understand the point of that chicane. I do like this roval. I think it's a fun layout. But that little chicane, it's not an actual chicane in any car I've driven. It doesn't slow you down.
No, it's not. It's just sort of a test of confidence, I think, is the way that it was put in there to see if anybody would psych themselves out into lifting. But yeah, it's not a chicane there. As we watch the 300 RSR addicts, that's Travis Brown working his way around some lap traffic there up on the high side. Brown's only about 1 point or so. I've got him listed here as about 1.6 seconds back from Corey Lotvilla. There you can see Lotvilla right ahead. So Brown putting in some hot laps here, trying to catch up a little bit. Last time out, he was 0.7 of a second faster, Joe.
And for the first time since lap 1, The 929 team is in 4th place with Abrams having to stop in pit lane. Came back out about 47 seconds behind him. It's still what looks like, actually, no, a lap down. Yeah, Silva is just behind Framheim right now. And that other GT1 car with him is Corey Latvala trying to lap him as well, which is unfortunate for Silva because he does have pace.
Yeah, he really does. The only thing that Nico's really going to have to hoping for here is that maybe just some pit cycle will work out in his favor a little bit, but he's got a lot of ground to make up if he does. Here we follow around. That's the 929. Is he holding up Jacob Abrams ever so, or Corey Latvala ever so slightly? Is that maybe going to allow for Travis Brown to close in a little bit more? Or is the draft going to help out Latvala here as he slingshots by?
I wonder if we could get a lap comparison between the 15 and the 300, because I'm pretty sure Brown was quite a ways farther back before. And if he's gaining, this is bad news for Corey, who is in a direct fight in the championship. Now, those 2 blank laps, I think, are for cut course penalties that maybe Brown had gotten. But even with those, look at those other laps. In fact, a full second faster on lap 22.
Yeah, there's no doubt that Travis Brown is charging here and really putting in the laps. He was about 0.4 of a second faster, looks like, on the last time by. So certainly coming in, that's going to get a little bit sticky there. That's John Momeyer that they're trying to get around, or Jerry Freckleton rather, that they're trying to get around. There, Latvala finally goes by the 929. That's going to be helpful, and now it is going to be Travis Brown's turn to get a little bit held up.
Yeah, down through a hairpin of 10. Freckleton just was where he wanted his car to be. It looks like Silva willing to get out of the way, but trying to race his own race. The gap back up to 2 seconds between Latvala and Brown. We're starting to approach the point where many of these drivers probably thinking about when they want to do their pit stop, considering we're looking at 50-minute stints.
Yeah, it's about what we're thinking about, and so that's going to be the next deciding factor. Now, these GT4 should be able to go a little bit longer than the GTEs from what I understand, but the GTEs will have to be coming in here, I would say, within the next 15 minutes or so, Joe.
Well, one of our GT2s is coming in, Adam Fulton, for the Fulton Racing team. He's going to hand over to BJ here as he comes down to the cones and is now taking his pit stop there. Once again, looking at the difference in Brown lost time in that traffic for sure. A 10th difference, 10th slower that time through compared to all the time that he was gaining before. So Fulton electing to pit at just before the 45-minute mark in this race.
All right, so that is your first taker there. Now, in an endurance race like this, strategy's not going to play too much unless you underfuel the car at some point. But with still 2 hours and 15 minutes left here to go, plenty of time to be able to keep working on that strategy a little bit. He may be playing backwards, maybe short fueling on the opening stint and then going long the rest of the way.
Our second driver change of the night. BJ Fulton is now in the car, taking over for Adam and getting ready to take off, but he's got to get the service first, so fueling up and taking tires in these GT2 class cars. That takes some time, unfortunately. So another reason why you really don't want any more extra stops than you need around here at Autoclub. There you can see him returning to the track in that 277. He'll come back in 6th place behind the AZ 986 car by, looks like, about 30 seconds.
Yeah, so he'll have a decent ways to go there. Yeah, as I said, I don't think taking tires here, especially early on, track temperatures are still down at about 73 degrees Fahrenheit. Not really worth it. You're not going to get that much of a performance advantage. I would recommend maybe taking them about halfway through the race, maybe on your second pit stop, but not this early on.
I'm starting to think that MRJ is getting a second wind here. They could have a chance at chasing down our leader in the GT2s, who's having lots of problems right now because he's actually not fighting but being held up by Matt Hollander and the 69 machine. Yeah, it is now way down compared to what it was before. So Michael Ryan Johnson can see the yellow car in his windscreen once again. Now, was Hollander trying to overtake him there? I'm trying to figure out what was going on.
Well, remember, Hollander is about to be put a lap down here, I believe, if he doesn't get out of the way on this. This is one of the cars, or no, he already is a lap down, trying to avoid going 2 laps down, excuse me. Remember, Hollander had some damage earlier on. This was Oviat's car beforehand. Here comes, that is your leader, Marc Rondeau, going to the outside. Hollander defending quite robustly here. And there you see, I believe that's Corey Lotvilla getting in the middle of things, and Travis Brown. Travis Brown is caught right up behind Corey Lotvilla. This is getting real spicy, Joe.
Yeah, that's for position in those GT1 cars, and I think that was some flashing of the lights from the yellow 171, displeased with what Hollander is doing out there. The GT1s are able to get by. I'm not sure if Rondeau's being held up or not. It kind of seems like he is, but at the same time, he gets a big toe on the oval portion from the 69 machine. It could almost work out well for him if he worked together with that AZ team.
Indeed, I think where he got slowed down a little bit was the dive down coming through 3 and 4 when he tried to overtake him a little bit. Yeah, you can see just how much he is. No, he wants to get by. He very much wants to get by. Hollander not letting him by if he can help it. That's another big check up there from Rondeau.
And behind them, Michael Ryan Johnson nearly got punted by Nico Silva. Silva had to lock him up to keep from running into that white Porsche. Rondeau with a much better run now. I think he should hopefully be able to get by. That depends on if his straight line speed is good enough to be able to overtake Hollander now that they've hit the oval.
Well, and that should help him a little bit. He'll get for a moment or two the pull from Nico Silva. Now, where Rondeau has got damage on the back of the car, I can report that Hollander's got some pretty extensive damage to the front of the car. So a little bit of battle of the limping Porsches here. They're still going to be side by side, trying to carry more momentum along the outsides. Rondeau, there he starts to clear, but Hollander dives it back in again, holding on, defending that position. Let's see if Rondeau's able to keep it. They're just going to be side by side as they go out of 4.
I wonder if this is a little payback from that team as well, because wasn't it the 69 and the 171 that came together into turn 3 earlier on? I want to say that the memories of these drivers might be causing a little bit of this frustration between them.
It was indeed, Joe. That damage on the front of Hollander's car perfectly matches the damage to the back of Marc Rondeau's.
Okay, then. This is getting tense. We still have 2 hours left to go. Got to keep those cars whole, boy. So try and keep it clean at the very least. Coming down into the chicane once again and defending hard. This has cost so much time for the Shaved Monkey Racing number 171. Michael Ryan Johnson is now back by 0.7 of a second. With a good slipstream, he could once again be fighting for the lead in that class.
Could indeed, and remember that increased straight line speed from Michael Ryan Johnson should be able to help him out a lot, but that's also going to be helping Marc Rondeau. That is the draft off of Hollander. Now he's a decent ways back here, a little farther back than we've seen him. Hollander holding up there a little bit. There comes the draft for Rondeau, but even with that, Johnson still has a 3 or 4 mile an hour speed advantage.
Just hugging that inside line. And Rondeau is still not going to be able to do it, but he set this up once before. He could set it up again, tries for the better exit, but it seems that Hollander is wise to it and keeps him at bay. I do think that if you're Marc, well, as wide entry to the corner opens the door, Hollander is able to once again keep him from passing. But I was going to say, if you're Marc, keep him pinched down to that inside line, go way out to the outside on that entry to 3, and just sell him a dummy.
Yeah, I think Mark's got to get his elbows out here a little bit. It's good, respectful driving at this point, but you've got to get a little bit more forceful. Really start to not rub the car at all. I'm not talking about contact, but put pressure as you're going through the corner. Get him to run a little bit wider. Force him to take a line that he doesn't want to take.
They now approach that infield chicane once again. Oh no, now Mark Rondeau's making mistakes as the red mist come over him. Michael Ryan Johnson could get the best run he's had yet. He's only behind by about 0.3 of a second. This could be a slam dunk for Michael Johnson.
Could indeed. Michael's going to tuck up behind that yellow 171. He pulls to the outside here, riding along the banking. At this point, he's just hoping that that improved straight line speed is going to help him, not even banking on the draft.
He's definitely quicker, but he's on the outside line. It's longer that way around. Will he be able to carry the speed off of it? Go NASCAR style. Make sure that he has the momentum. He brakes a little bit deeper. Can't cut down to the apex, or can he? He's clearly ahead. Now he's got to get the launch off the corner. Hits a lot of curb, but he manages it. And the Team MJ drive car is in the lead.
Great heads up there for Michael Ryan Johnson, and now let's see if he is able to pull away a little bit from that Shaved Monkey racing machine. He has been battling for the first 50 minutes of this race, and he's finally rewarded here with just absolute precision to get that move done.
Here's what I'm curious about now. He's going to have to catch and pass Hollander as well if he's got the pace to overtake that 69 machine. So if Hollander makes it hard, then clearly it wasn't as personal. But if Hollander just kind of easily lets him by, that kind of, to me, says that it really was a vendetta that he had between himself and the 171 team.
You're not wrong about that, Joe. Let's see what the 69 does as Michael closes into the back of him. He keeps up the same defense. Well, that's just fair play, as you say, but I don't know, especially now that Michael is clear. Man, we can really see the effect of that lack of straight line speed starting to play in for Mark Rondeau. Down 4 or 5 miles an hour as they cross the timing and scoring line. He should be in draft range at that point, and he's just not.
And Hollander is way off the pace as well. 153 versus 147 between Rondeau and Hollander, or Ryan Johnson and Hollander, rather. Breaking into the corner. Is he going to discover the same frustrations? He managed to get side by side, has to keep from running into the side of him. This actually might make him susceptible. Here comes Rondeau, has to play defense coming into turn 5, and he successfully rebuffs that yellow car.
Well, we know it is equal opportunity, ignorance of blue flags there for Hollander, just putting up a robust defense all the way around. And once again, I've got to say the impetus here needs to go over to Michael Ryan Johnson. He's just got to get his elbows out, force him wider in that little bit of tarmac between turns 3 and 4.
Second place just changed hands in the GT1 class, and it's going to change again. Latvala was passed by Brown, and he is going to repass Brown into the turn 3 chicane. So briefly, Brown found himself in P2, but it was not meant to be.
No, it was not, and I think that was Brown getting a little bit too eager, making the pass too early, just past the start-finish line, and that allowed for Latvala to tuck back up behind in the draft and take advantage. We have been keeping an eye on this between the RSR Addicts and the CLBS racing teams. They have been very close this entire time, and so we're going to have to see if this battle continues to rage.
Indeed, 2 cars involved in this one, 3 cars involved in the battle for the lead for the GT2s, except only 2 of them are on the lead lap. That's starting to come together once again as Michael Ryan Johnson is still working on the former leader. Oh, and contact was made. Contact between the pair of them. And this is going to go 3 wide down into turn 5. This is going to erupt in a bad way, I fear. And unfortunately, it's once again Rondeau who suffers the consequences who just loses traction down into that corner.
Yeah, a little bit of bumping and banging here. You saw a little bit more of aggressiveness out of Michael Ryan Johnson through turns 3 and 4, like I talked about. Still think he needs to give him a little less room there. There's the big bang there coming off of 4. Good move here for Rondeau, trying to go up the outside. Just going 3 wide down into that chicane. That was never going to work out, boys.
Yeah, it looked like he got a little nudge that put his wheels on the grass, and it was hard to stop the car into there, unfortunately. So that separates them now. And Michael Ryan Johnson, still stuck behind Matt Hollander, but at least he's not under threat. We've seen it swap around a couple times now. Brown is ahead of Latvala. Little tire smoke between the car of Freckleton in front of him in the pavement as he locked him up into that corner. Things getting exciting as they have to deal with the traffic.
Yeah, getting past Freckleton there. Ooh, this is getting very, very spicy indeed. Latvala trying to fight back here, and I believe that's Jacob Abrams right ahead of them. So that is a car in their own class that they're trying to put another lap down.
Abrams still the last one running in this class, trying to salvage something here today. Abrams sees Brown behind him, just going to hold the bottom line. Brown probably appreciating the slipstream, but he's off the racing line around NASCAR 1 and 2. Following him through, Corey Latvala pulling the slipstream and early braking. Abrams sees what's going on, doesn't want any part of that. Down to the inside, takes the apex away to spin. Whoa! Close moment between Abrams and Brown. Nobody made contact. And Jacob Abrams had a code Brown of sorts.
He most certainly did, Joe. I don't know how Jacob Abrams didn't run into Travis Brown there. Very, very impressive. Yeah, just carried too much speed through that corner. And I think that is just what sent that rear of the car spinning around, riding on board with Abrams. Quick hit onto the binders. Oh, my goodness gracious.
Great reflexes. So Jacob Abrams trying to make sure that, well, he doesn't have a teammate to hand that car over to. Excuse me. I was going to say, make sure it's clean for the next driver. Make sure it's clean for himself here. And we're only an hour into this thing. Oh, we locked him up. Well, that's going to cause a little bit of damage on the underside as he bounds over the curbs. Maybe rattled his nerves a little bit there as he had to take some great avoidance. As he will get back to the lit portion of the track, but lost some time once again. I just realized, though, is the 929 catching up to Travis Brown? Yeah, after Travis Brown's spin, which he is going to finally take the chance to pit now, which means Silva... No, wait, no. My time and scoring lying to me or something here?
I think so. Silva's a lap down.
Yes, you're right. So, excuse me. Silva gets a lap back from him, but he might be able to also catch up to Travis Brown now that the RSR Addicts team is taking a sort of scheduled stop.
Yeah, I think this is about the scheduled territory. We are 58 minutes into the race at this point, so this is within the pit window. These drivers in the GT1s able to extend a little bit longer than I would think they would, Joe, so kudos to them for doing so.
All right, well, they're riding on board now with Nico Silva. Damage on the very first lap of the race, getting a little bit of a tip and then slamming into the inside wall. And looks like Ost is going to get into the car for Travis Brown. So now we've got Michael Ost, who will take over. Silva is still on the infield. We ride on board with him into the last of those chicanes. Ost still taking service. Takes a while to fill these things up, and they can't take tires and fuel at the same time.
No, they can't, but it looks like Corey Latvala is also diving down pit lane, so another one of our leaders opting to come into the pits here as we inch closer to the 2-hour mark.
Silva is going to get the spot. Ost is still stationary, and there goes Nika Silva. P3 for the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu team. I'm sure that'll be encouraging considering they've been riding around in the back for nearly the entire race so far. After a full hour gone, a third of the way through, and it's taken them this much just to get back into the hunt of things. But they are an alternate strategy, so they might have to hand this back pretty soon.
Yeah, indeed. Remember, they came in on the second lap for a relatively quick stop. I believe it was just fuel. So they'll be able to top up a little bit compared to your leaders, but I don't think they're going to stay up in that third place position for too long, Joe.
Boost back on track and already in the infield portion. I've been once in a while poking my nose over to Michael Ryan Johnson. He's still behind Matt Hollander. And this is a very close-knit group of guys and are usually very focused on fair racing. They want to they have to race each other in real life out there, so their actual physical health and safety sometimes is on the line. So even though it isn't here, I'm a bit surprised at how hard Matt is racing everybody to try and hold on to this lap.
Yeah, I am too. It's a bit surprising, and it's not usually what we are used to seeing from the Porsche Owners Club drivers. There you see Michael really try to push down onto that low line. Whoa, was that a late move onto the brakes? Is this finally what he's going to need to get by, get his elbows out? But no, Hollander's going to hold him off. And Joe, a quick update, by the way, on Corey Latvala. He is out and on his way. He's a lap down from your leader, Teddy Framheim, but Latvala did not take tires.
Who is Teddy coming in? Sharing that one with Michael W. Johnson. And Michael picked a good teammate. They do score points, by the way, the same as their teammates for this race. So, for instance, whichever driver or whichever team wins, both drivers will get the 20 points for the victory that they traditionally would get in a solo race, which means that if Michael W. Johnson can bring this one home with Teddy, and I know I'm bringing this up a bit early, so I hope I'm not putting the commentator's curse on him, that'll finally be his first victory of the season that he's been working so hard towards.
Yeah, he really has, and it's really been a shame, frankly, to see him not get it. He's put so many good drives in this year as we watch. That is, I believe, Corey Latvala working his way around right now. And, excuse me, that is actually Michael Ryan Johnson that we are focused in on right now. But, yeah, really, really hope that Michael W. Johnson is able to finally get that monkey off his back, as it were.
It's a story we've been following for a while. He even had to go through some surgery. Had to recover from that race when he wasn't at 100% a couple times, just because he wanted as many championship points as he could get, knowing he's going to have to miss a few over the course of the season due to real-life obligations. Whoa, Abrams! That's not the braking zone that you wanted. Going to go through the grass. Thankfully, didn't hit anybody, didn't hit anything, and he'll get going.
Very lucky to escape unscathed on that one, as we've seen many of these drivers be over the course of the race. And as we continue to follow here, Michael Ryan Johnson, you see that gap to Hollander growing out a little bit more.
Yeah, so it seems that Hollander is able to use this traffic to his advantage in a way. Abrams not on the same lap here as Nico Silva, so this shouldn't be anything drastic between them. And what did I say earlier about knowing what the headlights are coming up behind you? That little fade to the side, I think for a second Hollander thought he was having to race Ryan Johnson again to that corner.
Yeah, Joe, and that is why you don't want to use those headlights too much. You want to save those headlights as much as possible for dire situations when you need to let another driver know what's going on. Riding on board here with Silva as he gets on by Jacob Abrams, trying to at least around the outside. Abrams having a little bit of a open definition of what the track limits are there, diving down to the apron.
Well, it is a road car. It's got more downforce, so just making the track a little bit shorter, and it gave him quite a bit of space ahead of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu car. So that will separate them slightly since we've hit another half-hour mark here. in California, and the sun is now fully down. We're going to take a short break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We are past an hour into this 3-hour event. Teddy Framheim leads the GT1s and Michael Ryan Johnson leads the GT2. Don't go away. We have more coming. Welcome back to Autoclub Speedway. Round 15 in the Porsche Owners Club Championship is now past the 1 hour mark, and we've had some developments in the GT2 class. While Teddy Framheim still leads the GT1s and Michael Ryan Johnson leads the GT2s, Doug Baccignone has been promoted to second place. He caught and passed Jeffrey Shulam on track, but they had the Shaved Monkey racing car in the 171 down on pit lane, and Rondeau handed it over to Michael Bolton. So there's 2 positions easily up for the green 581 car, but he's still a good minute and 18 seconds behind Michael Ryan Johnson in the lead of that class.
He is indeed, Joe, and he's going to have a lot of room to try to make up here. It's not going to be easy for him to do, but we've seen that car have a lot of speed. Remember, this is one of the 2 cars that came down early on pit lane in that bit of an unexpected pit stop. We're still not sure exactly why they did that, but that could play out for them later on, especially with the outright speed we've seen from that car. They do currently have the fastest lap out of these GT2s.
Yeah, it's all about timing those pit stops so that you're in the right position when the time runs out. Now, we also have a change of drivers in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu team. Nico Silva finally took a second pit stop and has handed that over to Michael Roban. He returns in 4th place, but is what looks like about a minute 17 behind Michael Ost. So there's that hand back that we were talking about before, DJ, that, yeah, they finally caught some of the cars, but then a few laps later, they just have to hand it right back.
Yeah, exactly. And that is so frustrating as a driver when you're out doing that and you have to come back in down pit lane, but you can't let it affect you. You just got to keep your head down and keep putting in those laps. Again, driving to that delta, trying to bring down those gaps as much as possible.
So we take a look at Ost in that third place, number 300 car. This yellow machine in front of him is Bolton, just flashing his lights, letting him know he's there, and he's going to try and get through before the chicane, which he does successfully. It's a nice, easy slip by for that team, and then flashes in a thank you as he continues on. He's got 52 seconds up to Corey Latvala ahead of him. Wide margins here at this stage of the race. And speaking of wide margins, the 728 team is in pit lane once again. Now, is this one scheduled? Because they've already had multiple problems before. Looks to be, because I see them going up on the jacks for tires. Ooh, but they were off track. They were off track before they came in for this. So I think there was some damage on the car, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it's starting to eke its way towards a long pit stop there for Jacob Abrams. And you also did see there the Team MJ Drive leader of your GT2s. That was Michael Ryan Johnson hopping down pit lane as well.
So I can confirm I was able to find before they pitted in on that same lap, the 728 machine hit the wall in the infield, and they are taking yet more repairs. Michael Ryan Johnson in the lead, but will this be for long? Will Doug Boccignone suddenly stream by and find himself in the dizzying heights of first in his class? He's sharing that car with Matthew Robinson here today, hence the name RoboBach.
We've obviously yet to see Matthew in that machine, but I have to say, waiting, it looks like Michael Ryan Johnson's Team MJ Drive machine down off the jack, so electing to take tires here, but just waiting now for the fuel to be put in the car, keeping an eye on Boccignone. He will have that lead, and there he's out and on his way. Gonna have a little bit of competition. That's Aaron Edwards that he's gonna be coming out alongside. Not quite going to be able to put him a lap down, unfortunately, is Boccignone.
So Doug is in the lead for the 581 team. Michael Ryan Johnson, though, has his pit stop done, and we're going to see a similar situation for the Team RoboBot car, as it's going to probably have to come in the next 10 laps or so and also take another stop. So they'll get cycled back down the order, but for the time being, they are up at the front of that GT2 class. Now, Matt Hollander as well looks to be back on the lead lap. Yes, indeed. So the AZ986 Racers team is back on the lead lap, and they unfortunately are being caught by Michael Bolton and the Shaved Monkey Racing team. Now, Michael's been outside the car, so he's been watching this whole thing. Do you think he's picked up anything from being able to see what's going on from outside? He could have a special trick up his sleeve.
Well, I hope Michael's been listening to the broadcast a little bit about getting his elbows out around turns 3 and 4. I think that's the best way to try to get by for that 171. Now, you'll also notice on the back of that car, they were able to take the fast repair, so that speed difference that we had been talking about is finally gone. And so that'll be a massive relief to him. Still some damage to the front of Matthew Hollander's machine, and so that's going to slow up the car in front of him a little bit.
Gave away the apex there a bit. Was worried that Framheim was going to try and chuck it in. Now Teddy's able to get underneath him. So they come around onto the front stretch. He's way too far back at this stage. They do have Aaron Edwards in the Shulam Edwards machine up in front of him. So he could use that as a bit of tow as he tries to catch up, because it is Hollander who is on the same lap there as the 171. but Edwards is not. So he's not really concerned. He just wants to use him as a leapfrog. I don't think that's going to happen here. The 5 has got quite a bit of speed.
Yeah, it almost looks like Edwards is going to be the one making the pole there as he comes to the outside of Hollander, trying to maybe pay back a little bit. Some lap traffic trying to get in the way of our current GT2 third place drivers, trying to slow him down a little bit. Now that offline driving, though, has allowed for Bolton to catch up.
So the traffic giveth and the traffic taketh, I suppose. As Edwards is stuck in the middle. He wants to run his own race. As they weave through the chicane down towards 9 and 10, he falls back a little bit, then gains under braking. Looks very strong under braking compared to those around him.
Yeah, it really does. Has that car dialed up very, very well. You can see ahead there, Hollander starting to slip away a little bit. Good run here for Bolton. Is he maybe going to try to truck it down the inside through going into this S's section? They have to get onto the binders to take the quick right flick before coming back left. Not going to be able to get it by, but if he stays this close through the rest of it, it will be a very good draft for Michael Bolton.
Ooh, almost got held up a little bit there coming back onto the oval. Certainly seemed like it checked him up. Almost wonder if he might want to hook up with that number 5 and bump draft him around the oval here. See if the 2 can be faster than 1. Gets in line behind him. This is his chance to do so.
He's got to watch out a little bit. Second place in the GT1s, Corey Lotvilla coming up behind them. That could compromise a move going down into turn 3. Splitting the difference there is Bolton. He's going to try to take that outside line. Edwards, very late on the brake. It is Aaron Edwards. That's going to compromise him. There's Bolton looking for that over-under. Is he going to be able to make it work going into 5?
He's on the wrong side. He didn't get as much of a run as he wanted. It looked like Edwards being parked there compromised him. Some ghost contact potentially between the 2 of them. And that sent the 171 very wide. Didn't hit anything. And he's got to be hating this lap traffic this race. It has been nothing but frustration for Bolton and his teammate Rondeau. Now he's finally through as Edwards lets him pass in the chicane.
What's pretty good that he did is they were getting caught a little bit by BJ Fulton there. BJ able to close in to the tune of about 2.4 seconds. That's him on the bottom of your screen right there. So it's a good thing he was able to get on by. Now BJ stopped on lap 25, so a bit of an alternate strategy for him. But at the same time, they're relatively equal here when it comes to that strategy. But our leader, Doug Baccignoni, is in the pits for the GT2s.
So that means it's going to be handed back to Ryan Johnson right now, actually. He's just passing the start-finish line, and he is scored as our leader. Hollander gets promoted to second. Interesting about that exchange between Bolton and Edwards. That cost Bolton a good 4 seconds on Matt Hollander. He is now way far behind and has to basically run his way up to the rear of that 69 car just on his own pace.
Yeah, he really does. But as I said, he is going to have a bit of an advantage as they were able to take that fast repair last time out, repair that damage to the car, repair the problems on the rear end that was costing them top speed, and now they'll be able to just put the pedal to the floor and really get ahead.
We are a minute 18 into this race now. So we're well into the thick of it. You can see we've lost all daylight. It is nothing but the lights of the track and the cars that allowing these drivers to see around here. Where is Baccignoni going to come back out? He actually just started. Okay, so the 581 is going to be able to return in 5th place, and Robinson is going to take over in that green machine.
Yes, he is. And the good news out of that is the fact that even through all that pit stops, they were able to stay on the same lap as Michael Ryan Johnson, your current leader in the GT2 category. So that's going to be good for them. They're going to be happy about that.
I think he's back by what looks like about a minute to the leader, which isn't too bad considering we've seen much bigger gaps that with multiple laps spreading some of our drivers. And again, he returned in 5th place, so still a top 5 for that team as it sits now. For those just tuning in, we are an hour and roughly 20 minutes into a 3-hour event here for the Porsche Owners Club. And it is Teddy Framheim who is leading in the GT1 class, which is GTE class cars. And Michael Ryan Johnson leading in the GT2 class, which is GT4 level cars.
Just throwing some extra numbers out there to confuse all of our faithful viewers. Yeah, Michael Ryan Johnson's had to fight his way forward for this, but it's been a different story for Teddy Framheim. Framheim has just held a very commanding lead, able to go longer on fuel, currently holds about a 16-second advantage over Corey Lottula in the CLBS Racing team behind him. Pretty commanding drive here from Teddy, but Joe, as we've said, we're just over a half of this race still to go, and a lot can still happen.
No doubt about that. In fact, one of the things I'm kind of looking at here is I'm checking out the lap times between certain teams to see who is gaining on who, because the gaps have gotten pretty wide. So now it becomes much more of a chess match than it is a brawl out here, which I'm sure some drivers will be happy about. And I think, unfortunately for the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu team, who have been put way down the order from literally lap 1, they are not faster than the car ahead of them. They're stuck in that 4th place and are not making inroads with a minute 30 seconds to make up to the next car up, which has got to be demoralizing. Hopefully, the teammate of Roban, Nico Silva, if he's still on there, is not telling him this information right now just to try and keep him motivated.
Yeah, that's very much what you don't want to do. You want to keep positive. Looking at even at a prime example of this weekend out in Hungary. So the Wolf coming on the radio saying, you can still win this, you can still win this. That's what you need to do as a driver coach, as somebody helping along. You've just got to keep positive for these drivers.
Absolutely, that's a good point. And a few of these drivers actually are real-world driver coaches, as this is Roban and Ost. That's not for position again. That's a lapping car that's trying to get by him. And he's not giving him an easy time.
No, he is not. We've seen that happen a lot out here today. Got to imagine there's going to be a few words in the paddock when these guys head out to Fontana for real this weekend about some of the lapped cars not letting the faster drivers by.
Absolutely. And once again, taking a defensive line down into turn 10, the 929 machine is solidly in front of the 300 car, but only on the track, not on the timing sheets. He's still a lap down from him and a position down, but we've seen little mistakes here and there. If Ost sets him up right, he could be able to get back past, especially out here onto the oval. He is right tucked up underneath and way wide, bounding onto the banking. The 929 car just slaps that pavement, and Ost should hopefully get a decent run.
Well, we talked about that, Joe, how it can damage the underside of the car or maybe that front splitter. But yeah, the biggest thing there is that Ost is going to get a good run around. He's taking the high line there. But he'll carry a little bit more momentum, tries to tuck back behind in the draft. Doesn't exactly have the straight line speed that he would prefer to have. Down onto the binders. Oh, Ost has got that one easy.
Yeah, almost looked like Roban did break a little early that time. I think maybe he had enough of that foolishness and decided it's better to just let him go, slowing both of us up here. So next on the road for Ost is the 15 car of Corey Lottula, but unfortunately that's a minute and 3 seconds up the road, so that's quite a bit of time to make up. Let's see what the times are like compared between them. I'm seeing low 131s from the CLBS car, that number 15, and the 300 is running mid to high 31s. So once again, It's not looking like we're going to see those times coming together, but we've already seen a lot of chaos here, so we can't count any chickens. They haven't hatched yet here, DJ.
Most certainly, we have seen a lot of chaos out on the track, both in the GT1s and the GT2s. And as the lights go down, it's harder and harder to see out on track. There's going to be mistakes that keep happening, and it's going to be tough to keep an eye out.
I have good news for the teams of Shaved Monkey Racing and Team MJD Drive. The AZ986 car is finally down pit lane. So Matt Hollander, who took this one over for Eric Oviatt, is he going to hand it right back now?
Well, let's see, but we've got a little bit of a battle starting to shape up here for P2 in the GT2 category, Joe. This is Fulton, BJ Fulton, chasing down on Michael Bolton. I alluded to this earlier. Fulton's been able to close in here. He's got this gap right up back behind his tailpipe.
Yeah, and I'm pretty certain that he's been running faster. He's brought the car to him. Now he's got to figure out how to get past him way off the apex there in turn 10, unfortunately, for the yellow 171. So they cut their way through that very quick chicane, past the old remnants of the factories that were here in the middle of the track, and down into the next chicane. Couldn't quite get close enough that time by the way, Hollander did hand the car over to Oviatt. He's getting ready to go soon.
All right, so there is that answer. We continue to ride all on board with BJ Fulton. BJ looking like he's got a pretty good run there coming out of that final corner. Let's see if he can make this stick. Michael Bolton holding down to that apron. BJ Fulton working his way to the outside, pushing along the best he can. Speed differential looking pretty even here as they cross over. They've got Michael Ost behind them, though. That's going to add a wrinkle into the mix.
Plenty of space on the oval. Just flies on by, but it is a drag race, and now a game of chicken. Who breaks later? It's going to be Michael Bolton down to the apex before his rival, desperately clinging to that second place spot, but the over-under now bites him back. He's got the inside into turn 5. He's finding his own trick being used on him. BJ Fulton can't do it as successfully, though. He'll slide in behind that yellow car and try again later. Great exit and given just enough space, but he has to lift.
And not going to be able to make it work into there. And it's very tricky to try to overtake into that flat-out chicane. See BJ backing off a little bit before they get into that sweeping turn 8 right-hander. They've now got Michael Robon starting to close down on them and Teddy Framheim behind them, so it is not over yet in terms of traffic to throw a wrench into this fight.
It's been interesting, the difficulty a lot of drivers have had in passing. Oh, and way deep into the first part of that chicane. Once again, Bolton finds himself vulnerable, but he parks it at the apex, and Fulton can't take advantage. Roban gets plugged up with no place to go. He's not racing anybody right now, but he wants to make as much time as he can, as he's got to catch up to the field ahead of him. Here we go again, into the slipstream. Bolton ahead of Fulton.
And I think this actually may help BJ out a little bit. He was able to stick in that slipstream for a little bit longer. There is your GT1 and overall leader, Teddy Framheim, working his way around the high side. Goes on by. Again, I think BJ needs to wait a little bit, try to build a little bit more of a gap coming off of turn 4 and wait to time this move right. He's just not getting past when he needs to.
Well, he gave him quite a gap right there. Looking for the exit. And it's not enough. Oh no! Fulton spins it. He avoids hitting the wall, thankfully. The car comes to a pitiful halt and has to spin back around, stays in third place. He's got a huge gap to Robinson, so he's not going to lose the spot. Let's watch this from on board.
Is this the same issue? It is, Joe. Left rear tire off into the grass, spins around. Same car, different lap, same story.
Just trying to do what you were saying. It's just the track has an edge, and unfortunately for him here, there's not much paved runoff. It just goes to grass, and no grip there, so it's a 9-second gap that he has to make up to get to the 2. gets flashed by Corey Lottfeller, second in the GT1 class as he breezes by. Just about to the halfway mark now.
Indeed we are, and as Corey Lottfeller goes on by, I want to give credit to Corey here. He's been able to keep that gap to Teddy Framheim pretty steady at about 15 seconds. I haven't seen him really be able to work it down a whole lot, but he was faster on the last time out, on the last lap. Corey's doing a really, really good job here to just keep nice, even keel. He was 0.2 of a second faster on that last lap, so good job for Corey, really running a good race here today.
He's a lot more consistent, honestly. Here's his last 4 laps, 31.2, 31.1, 31.1, 31.3. Teddy Framheim, in the meantime, was 31.1, 31.2, 31.0, 31.5. He's been dealing with a little bit of traffic. He can take fewer risks being as far ahead as he is, but eventually he's going to have to pick it up a little bit and get maybe a little more aggressive so that he doesn't find himself run down by the end of this race. And I'm sure Lottfeller has got the bit between his teeth, having been in this car since the start and wanting to see if he can get within range. He's flashing his lights like mad on Bolton and having to go the long way around through turn 10 on top of it.
That's not exactly going to make Corey happy, but he was able to at least get that move done. Gap continues to fall. He's got it down to about 14 seconds, so we may have a little bit of race on our hands, Joe, as that certainly had to have slowed down Corey, but not enough to keep moving that gap down for P1.
I'm watching Framheim now as he crosses 32.7. The traffic was atrocious that time for him. Here comes the 15, who's pitting. Okay, Corey Lottfeller has hit his second pit stop of the night.
Now that's a little bit early if he was trying to go full distance, so I think he's opting to maybe take the short stint here, Joe. Probably right at the halfway mark. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes a handoff as well to, I believe, his teammate Brian Salehi.
Yeah, I think you're right. So we're not going to get a comparison that time by. Maybe he's just splitting it up evenly between his last couple stints rather than trying to go the full distance. Less fuel in it, tires fresher for longer. It's hard to say at this stage. There's Framheim on the track right now, continuing on, who has also been running since the start, and I can confirm that Lottfeller just hopped out of the car. Salehi hopped in.
All right, so a driver changed at exactly halfway for that CLBS Racing. Haven't had Teddy Framheim do it quite yet.
And we'll come back after a short break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel as Salehi gets ready to take off, and Framheim actually going to put him a lap down before he takes his pit stop. Ost also going by, taking over that second position. Stick around. We still have half the race left to go here at Autoclub Speedway for round 15 of the Porsche Owners Club Series. welcome back to Autoclub Speedway. We're watching round 15 of the Porsche Owners Club Series. It's the tribute to Le Mans, 3 hours of racing here in California, taking us deep into the night. And right now, Teddy Framheim is your leader in the 106 car, has been racing in that thing this entire night, but still needs to hand it over to his teammate, Michael W. Johnson, at his next stop. Leading the GT2s, Michael Ryan Johnson is currently at the front out there. Also has not handed it over, and I believe he is not sharing that car this evening. So he's going to try to do this one solo and has been doing quite well on his own, although he's certainly had some frustrations and some challenges along the way. We don't have too many of our battles left after the pit stop that the CLBS racing car came in to serve. They're a lap down now in the 15, having given second place to Michael Ost, but we are waiting on a few more pit stops from our drivers here in this last hour and 24 minutes.
Indeed, Joe, and as we watch here, Brian Salehi, this is one of the drivers that has changed over right at the halfway point. Brian and his teammate Corey Lockwood choosing to do that, then making a little bit of a short stop here in the middle to break things up ever so slightly. But Brian doing a good job. He is now a lap down from Teddy Framheim, but Teddy still has yet to pit. Oh, is that Salehi around?
Into the chicane. What happened there? Suddenly, as I was watching that on board, I saw the wheel snap strangely, and next thing we know, we're facing the wall. I think he just lost it all on his own.
Yeah, there's nobody around him there, Joe. Let's go back and check out a replay of this, see if we can kind of discern what happened to Brian here. Going through that high-speed chicane, gets everything nice and good, getting ready to line up here for the right-hander. I think he just carried too much speed in there.
Yeah, I think you're right. Because he didn't hit the outside, he didn't clip the grass, and the curb strike didn't look too weird to me. So as he comes back into the infield once again, cost him a little bit of time, not too drastic, but every little bit counts around here once you get to the finish of an endurance race, because it is all about how far you can go, how fast you can do it when it is up against the clock along with your other competitors. When was the last time? Let's see, we're on a 21 lap stint for Framheim right now, 22 as he's just heading to the start finish line, 25 laps for Michael Ost, who's second. So Ost's the most likely in that group to probably have to come in soon. The driver who's been out the longest that I'm seeing, if my timing and scoring is correct, BJ Fulton's been out there for 32 laps without a stop in the 277.
Yeah, that's a really impressive run from BJ. He's really just trying to hustle that car around. And remember, that includes that very close battle that we saw between him and Michael Bolton. BJ just falling afoul of the grass outside of turn 4, like we've seen a couple of drivers do at this point.
So we should, I would think, see him in at some point in the near future. It was 25 laps that Adam Fulton went before he handed it over to him. But clearly you can go a lot farther than that based on what we're seeing here with the number 277 going quite long. We might have the entire field lap pretty soon, I'm noticing. Teddy Framheim is getting near the back of Michael Ost. The laps run at about 1:31 for most drivers, and Framheim is 1:25 ahead of Ost. So he could probably see him up the road now.
Yeah, probably can. And remember, as you said, Ost is out there a little bit longer than Framheim is. So if Michael decides to peel off into the pits here before our leader does, then for sure he is going to be lapped. And Teddy Framheim will do the almost improbable feat of putting the entire GT1 field and GT2 field a lap down.
We're right on board with Salehi now. That's Robinson and the Robobach car, who's trying to stay out of the way, and eventually the GT1 machine is able to find its way past to start lap 64 for them.
And so Brian there will be a little bit happy to see some clear air as he comes down through the infield section. Obviously like to pick up a little bit of a draft if he could, but that not looking like the way it's going to go for him for now. Making his way out to those very, very famous blue walls around Fontana. This is about the closest track that I could call my home track, Joe. Ooh, very close there for Brian. I can tell you those walls are just as blue as they are in real life, and they do come at you rather quick.
I'm sure, as he comes through the infields away from those blue walls for a brief moment. It's a track that's set to change in the near future. We'll see what kind of shape it winds up having. We've seen hints of it becoming a short track, but I'm not sure if those plans have since changed. Why don't we take a moment, and since some of our battles have drifted apart a little bit and we're probably going to be hitting pit stops a little bit later, let's go with Teddy Framheim here, who is our fastest man on the track and has been for much of the race, and see what it takes to be fast around here. Let's listen in to the driver. Realism that iRacing has managed to bring to this sim is just jaw-dropping anymore. As we watched from on board the Body Motion Racing number 106 car with Teddy Framheim at the wheel there. Now, I saw something very strange during that lap, DJ, in the infield portion. Actually, here, coming out of the double left-hander of 5 and 6, he weaved back and forth. It's not that cold on the track, I would think. So I wasn't sure what exactly he was doing, unless he was just goofing around.
I'm not sure as well, Joe. It's only 72 degrees out on track. That is a little bit chilly. But remember, Teddy's been running on these tires for 26 laps. They're probably more than up to temperature at this point. Doesn't have to worry about trying to keep them up in terms of heat. I think that may have been Teddy just kind of trying to wake up a little bit and keep himself entertained, let us say, as we are about an hour and 45 minutes into a very long race.
Yeah, absolutely. It's now currently looks like I think 9 p.m. Yeah, just past 9 p.m. virtual standard time here out on the track. So getting late out there. So we watch that purple car tick off lap number 69 now. And we still have 11 of our 12 starters running. Only car that we have lost is Jacob Abrams. He's been taking extensive repairs in his number 72-8 car, and he's had a lot of issues today. Hit the wall a few times, unfortunately. So not sure if we'll see him back out, if he's going to try and take it to the checkered flag or what. Over to our other leader, the number 3 of Team MJ Drive, Michael Ryan Johnson, currently with a gap of about 13 seconds over Michael Bolton. Those two were closer together earlier in this race, but traffic and some mistakes, as well as some strange goings on with lap traffic, has separated them by this margin.
Indeed, Joe. And, you know, I do have to say, looking at lap times here, it does look like BJ in that, Michael in that 171 yellow machine has been able to cut down a little bit, was about a second faster on the last lap. So Michael Ryan Johnson is going to have to keep his game up here if he wants to stay ahead. Only about 12 seconds separating them right now, so not the most time in the world that we've seen during an endurance race.
Remember earlier when we mentioned how long BJ Fulton has been going on this stint. He's up to 37 laps now that he's been out there in that 277 car. Got to think that pretty soon he'll be coming in. Kind of wonder if he makes it a little bit farther, if he could make it his last pit stop, and at that stage, would he hand it back to Adam, or would he try and bring it home?
I don't know. There's not a whole lot of time lost on a driver change in the pit stop, Joe. So I think it's basically just feeling out whoever's got a better feel for the track and the car at the moment. BJ doing a very good job here, it has to be said. So I'm not sure what their strategy would be, but I do think if he can stretch this just a little bit longer, you're right, that he can make this on one more stop.
I think we're getting close as well for Michael Ost in the RSR Addicts 300 car. He's on 31 laps for his stint, but that car wouldn't be able to make it to the end, as far as we can tell, on a single stop. He's going to have to do one more if he stops now. He just overtook the car of Matthew Robinson, who was slipping and sliding his way through the chicane there at the end of the infield portion of the lap, but thankfully didn't hit anything. Now, if we take a wide shot here of the 300, we should actually be able to see our overall leader. There he is in the purple car.
Yeah, we were talking about this a little bit before we went on board with Teddy Framheim, that Teddy is getting close to lapping the entire field here. He's only about 2 seconds adrift of Michael Ost, and once he catches up in that draft, he is going to be right there.
Looking at Ost now into the infield, 50 seconds ahead of Brian Salehi, who did get into that car pretty recently, so their stop has been done and dusted, and should take them to their third and final one in probably another 20 to 30 laps time themselves, as Ost brakes hard down into turn 10. The purple 106 gets bigger and bigger in his mirrors, and for sure he's got to be aware at this point that Framheim is there. He can't have avoided seeing that on his relative screen inside that car.
Yeah, he has got to know it. I think for Teddy, though, he may have timed this just about right, Joe. Remember, Teddy's working lap 29 of this stint. We can see that you can go about to lap 32 at the minimum. If he ekes this out for another 10 minutes, let's say, I think Teddy Framheim just may be able to make this on one more stop, and that is very bad news for the rest of the field.
Could he lap them all twice, maybe, in that case? Certainly putting on a clinic, but we have to remember that Teddy's likely to hand this car over to MWJ here in a moment. Michael should probably be picking it up at this next pit stop to play anchor for this event as he gets ever closer. My goodness, he caught a lot that last time through. In fact, it almost looks like it was multiple seconds that he narrowed that down. They're going to get slowed up by Aaron Edwards trying to stay out of the way. I think he should be passed by Teddy. Yeah, Teddy just flashing his lights as he cruises through.
And so there he is closing in on the back of the RSR Addicts machine, working their way through the right-hander there in that infield section. Now the blast down through that flat-out chicane. You can see Teddy just very nicely nudging some cones out of the way before they get down here into this sort of curving sweeper section. Not nearly as slow as the first part of the infield.
8 more minutes to go, 9 more minutes realistically here for our drivers to try and get to a mark that maybe they could eke out a single stop more to the end of this race. He's going to feel the slipstream now. He's only behind him by about 2 seconds, maybe even less than that, and he's already running faster times.
Yeah, he is. He's got that gap down to about 0.6 of a second from what I can tell. Framheim just coming on like a full head of steam. Not going to probably be too rude here and try to force his way by.
It doesn't really need to. In fact, he could probably save himself quite a bit of fuel if he just rides behind and lets the draft pull him along. Kind of curious to see if they elect to do that.
It's actually a pretty good decision. Like I said, if they're able to eke this out for a little bit longer, I think they can make it on one more stop. And if they just kind of tuck up behind here, lift and coast as it were, that can really help into eking that fuel mileage out of that car. Like I said, we know these cars can go at least 34 laps as proven by Michael Ost directly in front of our leader.
We've now hit lap 40 for BJ Fulton, by the way, on that stint that he's been running. Kind of want to see how many laps total he's able to go before he has to pit. Well, the answer is 40, actually. BJ Fulton's just pitted now.
Well, all right, Joe, there you go. And I think that should roughly get him to the end of the race, so he should be good to go on that.
Yeah, I think you're right. Last stop for the Fulton team. Now, Ost actually pulled away from Framheim in the end of the infield section. You can see how much he's dropped back. Remember, he was right on top of him not long ago. Going to close in here as now they hit the braking out of NASCAR 2. Coming into the corner. And Teddy just getting it all the way down to almost a car length between them after being a good dozen car lengths apart.
Yeah, it just shows you just how much more confident on the brakes Teddy is. That's why he's been able to be so much faster than any car out there today. Just a lot of confidence in that Porsche, able to get it slowed down much faster than anybody else. It's really, really an impressive testament here for Teddy Framheim. You see him just loitering around back here doing a good job.
So 40 laps is the max for our GT4 cars. Next likely one to stop is looking like Michael Bolton, who's sitting in second and is about 13 seconds behind our GT2 leader. We continue to watch here. Ost have to deal with Teddy Framheim just filling up his mirrors with those headlights. Much closer coming onto the straights.
Much, much closer. Let's see if he decides to make a move or just loiters back here a little bit more. Now, Joe, one of the interesting things to take into account here with Fulton coming into the pits. Now, I think he may be in contention for a good run here, depending. Yeah, he's going to have a really good run, a chance at the run at the leader here because the leader still has to pit.
Yeah, that was a 54-second stop in his stall for BJ. And should be filled up and easily able to make it to the very finish of this race now. But so will the other leaders, and they'll have to fill up a little bit less too. But right now, is he on the same lap as him actually? No, I think Michael Ryan Johnson is actually a full lap ahead of him though.
Yes, you are right, Joe. So that is going to throw a little bit of wrench into the intrigue I was trying to throw out there for our viewers.
Yeah, well, sometimes that happens in endurance racing. Sometimes things get spread apart. But we said it before and we'll say it again. And this isn't just trying to build false drama here. You cannot predict what is going to happen in endurance racing. Drivers get tired. Visibility is always poor in the dark, and mistakes are easy to make. So you can't give up. And despite him being a lap behind, you were right that Ryan Johnson has to make a pit stop, so he'll catch up a bunch of that time. And you just never know if he'll have an opportunity to have maybe a podium or potentially a pass for the win. As Ost, who we follow down past BJ Fulton into that corner, goes a little bit deep. Is this where we finally see that 106 go by? No, he still is content to just sit back there.
Yeah, he's just sitting back. I think he's saving as much fuel as he can, Joe, trying to eke this out and make this race into a one-stopper for him.
Things had gotten down to almost 12 seconds between first and second in the GT2 class. But then something's happened to Michael Bolton that it's gone back up to 15 seconds. Not sure if that was lap traffic or what. The last time through, it was 2 seconds off the pace. Which is not good for his hopes of trying to see if he can beat the solo driving number 3. So there he is on screen now behind Teddy Framheim.
Yeah, just still holding out there. I'm not entirely sure what happened to him, but yeah, that gap did grow out a little bit more. So we'll have to see if that was a mistake. I'll have to go back and check.
This is very strange. Unless there's some sort of fuel problem in the car. This time across, what's it going to be? 42.6. Okay, that's a little bit more representative, but still slightly off of what he can do. In clear air, he's running low 41s in that car. Compare that to Michael Ryan Johnson. Similarly, looks like he's had some low 41s. Did have a 42.3 on one of the last.
Ost around.
Oh, no. So Ost is now going to let by Framheim. Did he get damage in this is the question as he pulls back on track in front of another car. He doesn't get hit, thankfully. Here's the replay.
It was very, very close. Joe just carried too much speed into the corner. I think Teddy was able to avoid any damage on that. Let's take a quick onboard with our leader just to triple check that.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he touched him, but I'm curious to see how close it was. And this is always a danger when you follow a lapped car and you just try and sit behind them. See, I'd much rather be ahead of cars like that. You have a lot more control over your destiny.
Indeed, but, you know, trying to hit those fuel numbers, trying to get it down the best that he can. Good news is just over an hour here to go. And knowing that Michael Ost was able to take this thing out an extra 3 laps beyond Teddy Framheim, I think it's safe to assume Teddy Framheim only needs one more pit stop.
Yeah, that's a good point. They're just about to the hour mark, so we should see a lot of these drivers coming in within the next 3 or 4 laps to take their fuel to the end of the race, as Teddy Framheim now leads everybody by a lap or more around this California circuit. Just showing them how it is done. The gap between first and second and the GT2 class has gone up to 17.7 seconds now. Michael Bolton is definitely struggling compared to what we saw before.
Yeah, he really, really is. I'm not entirely sure. Almost growing to 18 seconds there. It's not necessarily a traffic problem, Joe, as Ost was able to get by him. I think he is just struggling, maybe a little bit on tires, maybe just a little bit on weariness.
Yeah, another 42.3 that time for the 171 car. Officially cracked under 1 hour to go. We're in the final third of this 3-hour event. We watch our leader in the GT2 class, Michael Brian Johnson, will be racing without a teammate here today to do it all on his own. He'll come around to complete lap 70 this time by. This is his 28th lap in this stint since his pit stop, and he's well within range that he could stop one more time to take it home from here. So the options are open. He's finding the gap increasing. Life is good, but he can't relax yet.
No, he cannot. As we have said multiple times, it's dark. This is an endurance race. He is driving this all by himself, so he has got to keep his mind focused. This is where you are most likely to make mistakes, Joe, as a driver. When you see that gap growing a little bit, you're coming down into a lower time frame, you start to ease up, and the minute you start to ease up, that is when mistakes can happen. You have to constantly be on every bit of your game driving a car around here like this.
Michael Ost is in. Is Travis Brown going to take over for him? It's going to happen soon. If it does, yes, he is. As the car pops back into place, that is Travis Brown now in that car. So fuel and tires, I assume, for the final stint. Hopefully enough. It'll be a little tight, probably, to get to the end. 58 minutes, probably more like 57 as he waits for it to finish refueling and take tires.
Yeah, and Brian Salehi there is gifted over to the second position. Remember, he's going to have to stop again, although it will more than likely just be a splash and dash for Brian, so not nearly as much fuel put in. Watching his way around the track right now, he is already through the infield section, growing a pretty good gap over Travis Brown, so he's going to have to hope that holds. Brown now back underway.
And Framheim is on pit lane. We are going to see Michael W. Johnson get in the car for the first time in this race. They're going to do a driver swap, take the full service, and get back out. You can see how long it takes to get to the end of this pit lane. Looking for his stall, which should be at the very front since he took pole. There it is. Just pulls in nicely. Can take his time making sure he hits his marks. And Teddy Framheim has done a phenomenal job. He deserves a rest after that one, lapping the entire field. Now it's Michael W. Johnson's turn to bring the car home. No pressure, just trying to get his first win in this series.
Yeah, absolutely no pressure at all for the real-life driving coach there. Just waiting. The closest competitor, by the way, Brian Salehi, just unlapped himself. So plenty of space. There goes Michael up onto the jacks, getting those fresh set of boots on the car. They'll be able to get ready and pull out here probably just with about 56 minutes to go here in this race.
Yeah, he won't even lose the lead here on this pit stop. Should come back out ahead. And it was a minute point 2 for Brian Salehi's last stop. 55 seconds for Travis Brown. Minute point 1 for Michael W. Johnson, who returns to the circuit in the lead. And we have to wait for Salehi to get back to the timing line to get an idea of how far back he is.
Yeah, indeed we do. Things are a little shuffled up there, as it were. But we're going to have to see, just kind of waiting on the last round of pit stops here to determine what this race is going to look like. We anticipate pretty much everybody with the exception of Michael W. Johnson and Travis Brown having to come in.
With the body motion racing car having taken its stop, we got a good chance to step away for a brief moment. So we're going to take a break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back with the final hour here at Autoclub Speedway of round 15 in the Porsche Owners Club Series. Welcome back to Autoclub Speedway. It's round 15 of the Porsche Owners Club Championship. And this enduro is their tribute to Le Mans, with Michael W. Johnson now taking over for Teddy Framheim and leading the way in the body motion racing 106 car in that GT1 class. There you see him in the purple machine on your screen, as Michael Ryan Johnson and the white number 3 Team NJ Drive is doing a solo run and still needs to take his final stop, but is well clear and actually pulling away from second place Michael Bolton in the 171 car. As Michael Bolton actually has been having his own issues with BJ Fulton, who is a lap down from him, almost kind of racing him a bit out there right now. And you can see them on screen there. That is Bolton in the yellow car and Fulton in the blue.
It's obviously not a battle for position, but just trying to make things a little bit interesting here, as we do have a change up front. That is the CLBS machine of Brian Salehi coming in to take his final pit stop.
Which means Travis Brown will move back into second once again, but still a lap down from our overall leader. Back on the track already, Brian Salehi, only a 20-second stop. Interesting.
Yeah, a bit of a splash and dash there from Salehi. We anticipated as much may be the case, so he clearly thinks he's got enough in that machine to be able to get on and away right now. There you see that was Bolton able to get by. This is Brian as he makes his way through that corner. Whew, that looked a little hairy there for him. And Joe, am I crazy, or is there a little bit of damage to the right rear of that car's wing?
On the 15 car?
Yeah, on Bayern.
Right. When did he get that? Let me check on that, because that is very interesting. I don't remember that being there.
Yeah,
Ooh,
I'm not
okay.
sure where he would have picked that up.
It was relatively recent. We must have missed an incident or something. Because I checked the laps, and it definitely wasn't there not long ago. Oh, yeah, he hit the wall on lap 79. Through the infield chicane, glanced it just a bit. Maybe that's why he came in, wanted to take a spare car and get back out there. Now, the interesting thing about that is before I learned about that little bit of damage, well, he couldn't have taken his spare car then. Because he came back out and the damage was still there. But anyways, with that stop, that fast stop, I get the idea that the CLBS team did not put tires on, just fuel, to see if maybe they could get a spot by doing an alternate strategy to those around them.
Yeah, they certainly did.
Sounds like we have the replay maybe here.
All right, let's jump back and check.
Welcome to Autoclub Speedway.
Little bit of a problem there on the technical side. We'll try to pull this up. There we go. This is the replay, I believe.
Yeah, it should be just after this. It goes through the swift part of the chicane, and then it's going to be this next corner into turn 13, 14.
All right, so this is a fast flick. Dives it in. Oh, just carries too much speed. Gets the corner. Yep, and right into the wall. That's going to explain the damage there in that rear wing. And looking a little bit closer at that car, yeah, he just hopped the curb. It's as simple as that, Joe. Also looks like he's got a little bit of damage to the side of the car as well. So Bayern there, not doing great here, but will hopefully be able to keep this thing home in a podium position. Though it has to be said, Michael Robon only 8.5 seconds behind him. Michael could be looking at something here, but Michael has yet to stop.
Well, this is the first full flying lap from Salehi since the pit stop. It is a 33.7. That is definitely off the pace. Robon ran a 32.9, nearly a full second faster. 47 minutes left on the clock. It's definitely possible that he could run him down. He didn't even have to cut it down by a second a lap. He could do it a 10th of the lap and still be able to close in.
Well, the only problem there, Joe, is that I think Robon still needs another pit stop. Now, that'll be a quick splash and dash, but that's a tall, tall order.
That's a good point. I forgot about that. They are on the alternate strategy, and they're trying to stretch it as far as they can go. 41 laps on this stint for that 929 team. So they should be getting down to the end of it. Wonder if we'll see other drivers need a little bit of a splash and dash, though. Remember, the 300 team pitted 6 laps ago, which was just under the 1 hour mark. And these cars, like we mentioned, a little over 50 minutes most often. So I'm wondering if things just will kind of work out for the 929 team, that everybody else is going to have to duck in for that extra stop, but the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys will be able to do the same amount just in reverse.
Potentially. It's going to be very interesting. I've seen guys take it to about an hour, I think, is what I was clocking, so I think that is possible. But one way or the other, this is going to be close. Yep, there he comes on in right now. So he will be able to make it to the end. This is Michael Robon of that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu team.
Silva started the first part of the race. We've seen a few drivers switch back and forth both times. So will this team do so as well? Finally comes down towards their pit stall. Well, maybe they pulled over. There's nobody there, so don't have to worry about running through all those empty pit stalls, but they're going to go through all of these ones before finally coming up to theirs. Yeah, that's why you don't do that, guys. Couldn't quite find it around the car of Abrams, still taking repairs. And yes, he is going to swap around. Silva now back in.
All right, so a little bit of fresh blood into that car in these closing 45 minutes. Just waiting here. This is your leader, Teddy Framheim. Or excuse me, Michael W. Johnson. I'm so used to saying Teddy Framheim at this point. Michael W. Johnson continuing on with really good pace here. Doesn't have to push. He's got a lap on the entire field.
Yeah, did a lot of the heavy lifting there early on. Michael W. Johnson has been pushing himself as well. In fact, so much, many of the laps are not showing up, which to me says that he's had a lot of off tracks that have deleted those laps. He's coming up on somebody that he's flashing. That's actually BJ Fulton and Michael Bolton in their sort of faux battle that they've got going on. It's a good example of Michael not really wanting to get involved in this and try and play it safe. The jiu-jitsu team is back out, and they are a minute 27 down from Salehi, so actually almost a full lap behind. That's going to be a road too far to catch up to.
Yeah, that's going to be a little too much to handle this far along into the race. There you see Michael just trying to thread his way by. As you said, Joe, doesn't have to go too hard on this. Takes a nice wide line there. Big clip coming under the banking, though.
Pretty wide for a brief moment. Brown to the outside, Bolton to the inside. Is Brown trying to unlap himself? He is. The RSR Addicts team trying to get back on the lead lap. Now, there's no cautions that'll help them if they do that. The main thing they're hoping for is just finding time. Now they start to back off, though. And maybe saving fuel. Was that a lift and coast for that?
May have been a little bit of it there. I'm not sure. It's going to be tight for him. And that fuel number is definitely something we're going to have to keep in mind.
That should be everybody that needs to pit in the GT1 class. So that should hopefully take us to the end, unless, as I was just saying, the RSR Addicts team is tight on fuel. But if they have a friend here in our leader, they could try and just ride his coattails. I mean, they're going to be unlikely to take a victory anyways. Might as well use them to their advantage to take a solid second place since Salehi's so far back.
Yeah, indeed. I would be perfectly fine with taking a second in this race for them. It's a good haul of points for everybody involved. That's not the craziest idea in the world, and it makes sure you get to the end, you know, Joe?
Yeah. Got to think long term. You got to think outside the box a little bit here in this series as they come back around to start yet another lap. So as I was saying, all of the GT1 drivers, GT1 teams have now taken their final stops and should be able to get to the end, although we do not know if Jacob Abrams will be able to come back to the track. He's been in for more than an hour there. It's the GT2s that are a question mark, but one of them is pitting now, and Michael Bolton will be good to go to the end from here. So will Aaron Edwards. He is also in. We've also had a pit stop from BJ Fulton, about 14 laps to go. We think they are on the limit of what could take them to the finish of this race.
Yeah, indeed. And Nico Silva coming down again. That's a little bit surprising.
What is going on? Did they miscalculate the fuel, or is this a penalty? He could have sped in pit lane. He's looking for his stall once again. This is very unusual. Mark Rondeau going to take over. So, looks like Bolton has finished out his stint. Going to make sure the hot shoe gets back in to play anchor. Aaron Edwards back out in 6th in class as he finishes his final stop. Silva does come into his pit stall. He's in there for quite some time. This cannot be a splash and dash, a miscalculation on fuel. Let me check to see if he had an incident that we missed.
I'm waiting to see the time here, Joe. He's cracking over 30 seconds right now. Yeah, very long stop there. I think this may be serving a penalty, and that as you check for that incident out on track.
Yeah, he missed the apex big time as he came out of the pits. But other than that, I didn't see anything that hinted at him having contact with the car or the wall. So 43 seconds to me says he sped in the pit lane, had to come in, serve the penalty, and come back out.
Well, that's unfortunately going to scupper any chance he really has of chasing down anybody in front. The closest battle we now have in that GT category is the CLBS team, about 35 seconds back of RSR Addicts. That's Brian Salehi trying to chase down Travis Brown. Your leader, Michael W. Johnson, continuing to just pull out these clean laps here, sticking ahead the best he can. He has an entire lap advantage over the rest of the field.
This is looking like it's going to be a Michael Johnson sweep, because we can't forget that it is the Team MJ Drive that is currently ahead in the GT2 class. And he still needs to make his stop, but he's got a minute 13 over Matthew Robinson and the Robobach team, who also needs to make a stop themselves. In fact, did they just come in? No, they are not in. They are not at pit entry. Ryan Johnson continues on to lap 41 for him.
Lap 41 for him. His previous stint was back on lap 42, so I would expect him in relatively shortly, relatively recently here, almost any minute actually at this point.
Got less than 40 minutes to go now, easily within that window, with 11 cars still running on the track. Michael W. Johnson dealing with some of that traffic. Travis Brown has decided to stay put behind him, has not been challenging him since. There's Aaron Edwards in front of him, making sure that he knows he's there, gets by. Ooh, but Edwards had to cut the course a little bit in the process.
Yeah, he did. Not exactly the ideal line through that corner, but Edwards able to get through okay, as it were. Just waiting here as this clock continues to tick down, and we wait to see what the final remnants of this pit cycle will be. Are there going to be any wild cards thrown up in this last 38 minutes?
It's a question everybody wants answered. I'm quite impressed by Michael Ryan Johnson. He qualified in 6th. He was well down the order. And he's actually coming in now. There you see on screen, past the cones. That's the end of his pit cycle. That was 42 laps, was it not?
Yeah, that was right at 42 laps. Now, remember, behind him, Team Robobach, that is Matthew Robinson right now. He was one of the guys that made that early sort of strange pit stop. We'll have to ask him about that. Able to come back through the field here. Now, he's still got one more stop to serve. He was able to go to lap 45 last time. He's currently working lap 38 of his present stint, so I expect him in within 4 laps.
So Ryan Johnson hits his pit stall. I was saying before he dove into the pits here, starting from that far back, his pace just looks so much better than everybody else. Even when some started to challenge him, they dropped off eventually. And the number 3 has been essentially in control of this event. Gonna take tires here on this last stop. He's got the buffer to do it, no doubt. Waiting for that to finish up.
Yeah, he's still got a massive advantage to Shave Monkey Racing, who are the drivers behind him, who have made their final stop. So he's got plenty of time to do just that. And it actually looks like that's the 5th in class. That's Shulam Edwards coming down pit lane. Team Robobach's going to take the lead, but that's going to be short-lived.
Yeah, certainly can't go another 35 minutes on this tank of fuel in that 581. The 171, let's see how far back. We got to wait for them to come by our timing line. to get an idea of that, but it looks like something close to half a lap behind, unfortunately. So it's a pretty big gap for Rondeau to make up. They see our leader, Matthew Robinson, 12 seconds ahead of Michael Ryan Johnson. Just dealing with those GT1 vehicles interrupting his race every so often and kind of running on his own otherwise. Oh, but he spins! And Travis Brown, unfortunately, just narrowly escapes. Well, fortunate for him, really, but it slowed him up and certainly should have rattled his nerves a little bit. Let's take another look.
Well, if Travis Brown was worried about falling asleep this late in the race, he's certainly awake now, I'll tell you that. Riding on board here, you can see starts to go through the corner. This is that sweeping right-hander tight corner of 8. I think he just took too much speed in there. Brown with some excellent avoidance maneuvers to get on by.
Fantastic job on that one. I think we had another spin. That was Eric Oviat. It was a self-spin on him as well into turns 5 and 6. Nobody near him, so that was pretty uneventful. Didn't lose a position either. He stays P5 for the AZ 986 Racers. Okay, so a small moment of drama for the 581 team. And now, unfortunately, this means that they'll probably lose the lead because here comes Ryan Johnson.
That's exactly what I was going to say. What this did is it actually presented us a nice little battle on track between Michael Ryan Johnson and Matthew Robinson, diving their way down through the infield section right now.
Yep, that is the white car that you can see approaching the green, number 581. And he doesn't really have to overtake him here. If he wants to wait, he could have the pit stop handed over to him eventually, or look for just a mistake here from Robinson to make it nice and easy. This time through the turns in hairpin, he manages not to get the car turned around. Riding very close behind the Team Robobach car and misjudges the braking, almost running into him there, not anticipating how much earlier Robinson was going to brake. Great heads up by Ryan Johnson to keep from getting damaged through that incident. That would have been an embarrassing way to lose this race.
It would have indeed. Good heads up to be able to pull that car out to the side, and there indeed comes Team Robobach. That is Matthew Robinson coming down pit lane, so that will grant the lead of the GT2s back over to Michael Ryan Johnson as Robinson comes down pit lane. I anticipate, it'll be happening here in a second. Shave Monkey Racing, Mark Rondeau will inherit second.
At about 30 seconds behind Michael Ryan Johnson as well. For reference, that is basically the distance for these GT2s from the start-finish line there down to the chicane that you enter in to the infield. So on the throttle all the way until he gets to the braking, and finally he'll get to where Michael Ryan Johnson was on the track while he was crossing the start-finish line. Do we have any other takers in? Baccignoni is going to take over for Matthew Robinson.
And also Fulton Racing Team, BJ Fulton able to get by what will now be Doug Baccignoni's machine as they get back underway just now. So now your GT2 podium looking a little bit different than it was a couple of minutes ago, but very similar to what it was looking like earlier on in this event. Michael Ryan Johnson out in the lead, Mark Rondeau for Shave Monkey Racing sitting P2, and BJ Fulton for Fulton Racing sitting back in third.
We are expecting that is going to be everybody. Fulton and Momeyer both pitted on similar laps. Momeyer actually longer ago in that number 6, but he is well down the order. He's trying to catch up to Aaron Edwards. We might have a battle for that a little later. We'll have to keep an eye on the lap times between the 5 and the 6 car. because they're separated by 14 seconds, which is, I believe, the closest gap that we've got right now.
Yes, it is. That is the closest gap. The only one that is anywhere near close to that is the gap between P3 and P2 in the GT2s. That's BJ Fulton trying to close down. Michael Ryan Johnson has had a spin. He spun. It's that same issue we've been seeing, Joe, just touching the grass on the exit of turn 4.
Let's take a look at the replay. This race ain't over. Don't go away yet. Here's Michael Ryan Johnson trying to maximize, the inside curb this time, not the outside for him. He just bounded over that thing.
Yeah, he did, and apologies to Michael Ryan Johnson. I saw a car spinning in that area and assumed that is what we've been looking at, but yeah, just taking way too much of that entrance curb and that upsetting the balance of the car, and Michael not able to get that gathered up back under him. So the gap now is only about 15 seconds back to Shaved Monkey Racing, dropping back to 14 seconds now, so there may be a little bit of a race on here still.
Yeah, that means if they have another mistake like that, that will allow Rondeau to be within striking distance. Well, incredible developments here in this race, but we're going to step away one last time. We will take you to the finish from here for the final half hour of the 3-hour enduro here in the Porsche Owners Club Series of the Le Mans Tribute. Welcome back to Autoclub Speedway. Round 15 of the Porsche Owners Club has only 26 minutes left to go. And up at the front, Body Motion Racing has Michael W. Johnson leading the way by a full lap over any other car. However, dramatic developments just before winter break in the GT2s has found Michael Ryan Johnson in the Team MJ Drive number 3, a mere 13 seconds ahead of Mark Rondeau. A spin coming into the infield has meant that the gap has lessened significantly. And the last lap for the Shaved Monkey Racing team has been a 140.8. Compare that to Michael Ryan Johnson with a 141.4. I wonder if the confidence has been shaken for Michael Ryan Johnson.
It certainly could have been, Joe, and with only 25 minutes left to go here, he's going to have to gather that back up. That pace continues to be that slow. He's still running a 141 there, so not good enough necessarily to keep up with Shaved Monkey Racing. They're going to cross the line right now. Now, they had to deal with a little bit of traffic on that last lap. Not as good there. That's a 141.3 for Mark Rondeau. So those are not the times he needs to put in to catch Michael Ryan Johnson.
But it was coming down, so the impetus is there, the motivation to try and push and use every trick he can to see if he can steal this win away from what has been a dominant drive from the number 3 car. Got in front, has basically rebuffed all comers, some challenges along the way, and even dealt with some frustrating lapped cars on top of it. I guess mercifully for them, the AZ986 has been on the other side of the track for quite some time, so they haven't had to deal with that going on since early on in the race. But 24 minutes left to go. It's not over, and they can't afford major mistakes like that. They have to try and get this car whole to the end, and they actually, we didn't see it on screen, but Ryan Johnson just took a lot of curb coming into the chicane just now. So yeah, mistakes are starting to come out.
Well, I mean, we are 2.5 hours of continuous racing. Remember, Michael Ryan Johnson has not had a driver change. He has been doing this absolutely solo this entire time, and that does really start to take it out of you. Sitting in the sim for that long, sitting in a car for that long, doing the same thing, it just gets so difficult to focus ahead and keep doing what you're doing. It's so easy to lose focus, and that little moment of lost focus, Joe, that is what causes mistakes like we saw out of the number 3 earlier.
Well, now he's having to let by the other Michael Johnson. Thankfully able to get through there on the stretch down to turn 5, but that's Travis Brown a lap down from the GT1 leader, who's going to immediately interrupt him once again. Looks like he got some clear track, and now he is through. And then he's got another minute before he sees another GT1 car, which is the CLBS racing machine, which has a long ways to go to get to them. We've been keeping half an eye on the 277 team and the number 6 team, who have stopped relatively earlier than the rest of the GT2 cars, but we don't think it's going to be a major issue for them to make it to the finish. Still something to keep tabs on and watch to see if they are going to be forced into the pits with a splash and dash, losing some positions. Other than that, the 2 cars with the oldest tires and pit stop here in the GT1s are Travis Brown and Michael W. Johnson.
Yeah, and both of them doing a good job. Remember, Michael W. Johnson tucking up behind Michael Ost. Actually, that was Framheim earlier, tucking up behind Ost before Ost had that spin, probably saving a little bit of fuel. We think they should be fine to the end. We saw those cars go very, very late into the stint. Only 22 minutes to go here. Even if, I have to say, Michael W. Johnson does have to come in and take a splash and dash, I think he will still be fine. That is his closest competitor right behind him, Travis Brown, just pacing around Michael right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. Really not much in the way of drama between those two, because if one is in the situation, the other is likely to be similar, unfortunately, for Travis Brown. But for Travis Brown, remember, he and Salehi are the ones that are in a championship fight. Now, Michael W. Johnson still has plenty of rounds left to also get involved, so that is a bit of a concern. But really, directly, currently, it is between Travis and Bayan that are closest on the points fight. So they are the ones that they want to beat here on the track today. since they are not on the same team, and they know that they are going to be getting the same points as their rivals in this championship that have teamed up with them for this event. In the case of Brown, that is Michael Ost. And in the case of Salehi, that is Corey Latvala.
Yeah, and Latvala, who has done a good job for him to set him up into this position. So just waiting here, as we say, time ticking down, just about 20 minutes to go. These drivers absolutely putting in the paces, but we've got a little bit of a battle on our hands here, Joe. Shaping up.
Oh, I've just figured out how this happened. Yeah, it's a 1.5 second gap between Momeyer and Edwards. What happened was Edwards had to check up, and that cost him the time to Momeyer, who finally made the pass to get himself into 6th. If we want to back this up, it's about a minute back into turn 3, just exiting the oval. Not sure if we've got the replay. It was Edwards trying to stay out of the rear of Mark Rondeau when it happened, right at that corner right there that you see them going through right now.
Indeed, as we try to spool this up, this has been a battle that we sort of had our eyes on, just sort of tangentially watching Momeyer try to close in. All right, here, I think we've got this replay spooled up for you. It's just before this, I believe, as Momeyer had already gotten by at this point.
Yeah, need to be on the entry into, yeah, there's the battle happening right there, and eventually gets it done through 5 and 6. But it started a little bit earlier as we...
This is it.
Yeah, this is where he saw him slowed up. And this is an impressive pass, actually. I don't think I've ever seen anybody make it long way around to 5 and 6.
No, this is a very flat track. No camber there to really help you carry that momentum around. So that is just very gutsy from John Momeyer. And remember, I mean, he's working on 29 lap old set of tires there. So not exactly like it's fresh rubber. And a pretty cold track temperature too. So not a whole lot of grip out there. It's a very good move. Yeah, there you can see it's only 71 degrees out on track. The desert air out here in California keeping everything nice and cool. But good moves for John Momeyer, moves him up to 6th. Now that's not going to affect our GT2 standings at all, because Freckleton and Momeyer were both in the same car today. But what this will allow to have happen is some of the GT2 drivers maybe catch up on our leading pack a little bit, as, ooh, it looks like, I believe...
It was Abrams.
That's Abrams around.
Yeah, he's returned to the track after 92 minutes of repairs. But the car doesn't seem like it's still in great condition, because he immediately spun it on the very first corner there through the chicane. I think he just wants to see the checkered flag, see if he can run it for the last 20 minutes of this event. Hopefully it doesn't cause any issues for any of the other drivers. I don't think Jacob is going to do something like that, as long as his car handles well enough.
Yeah, I don't think he will either.
That Silva was off. Silva was just off course in turn 10. He had some contact as well with Aaron Edwards.
Ooh, so there we see the aftermath of that. That's Silva sliding out there through that tricky, fast chicane. Let's watch this here, figure out exactly what happened, Joe.
Just the slightest of contact to the quarter panel. Sent him out in the grass. Thankfully, there's a lot of runoff there, so he didn't hit anything. Unfortunately, he was already way behind because he had that extra pit stop that we think was a speeding penalty in pit lane. So that just kind of added insult to injury. Oh, and Silva is in. Is this a drive-through penalty, maybe? Has he been naughty?
That's exactly what I was thinking, Joe. That 4X there on that contact plus an off-track, well, looks like he's coming to rest in the box.
Yeah. Maybe he got a little bit of damage. If it was on the corner of the car, it could be that it just bent the suspension enough that he's got to come and get repairs, which, again, Nico Silva and Michael Raban are going to want to forget this race. They had such good pace in qualifying. We're in fourth. Well, they are sitting in fourth right now, but they were close with the others. And as they come to take some tires, I'm going to take a stab that was indeed some repairs that was needed on the car. This is our leader, Michael W. Johnson, and the Body Motion Racing 106. Now 15 minutes left to go, and he has dropped Travis Brown now. So if Travis was using him to save some fuel, he can't anymore.
Indeed, so that may present a little bit of a problem there for the RSR Addicts machine. Remember, he is going a little bit long here, currently working lap 27 of that stint. He needed to save just a hair more fuel. That could open up a little bit of an opportunity to Brian Salehi behind him.
Also an update on that battle for the lead in the GT2s. Rondeau has not been able to keep up the pace, if I can get the words out. He is 16 seconds behind. It was down as far as 12 seconds at one point. So Ryan Johnson has been putting his foot down, making sure that there is no hope for the 171 to try and make a pass late in this event.
Yeah, just trying to keep ahead the best he can, building that gap back out a little bit, but 15 minutes to go. It's looking like this is not going to be too good for anybody catching our leaders.
Undoubtedly. Certainly has robbed us a little bit of some battles here at the end, but they've got to complete this race. It is not over. BJ Fulton, has BJ Fulton's team actually been a little bit faster than the 171, I wonder? Because it's down to 10.9 seconds between those two.
Well, he wasn't on the last lap, Joe. He was off by about 0.3 of a second there, but that gap is coming down even more, showing up on my timing screens, hovering about 10 seconds or so. So BJ putting in some time here. Mark Rondeau ahead of him. He's smelling a little blood in the water.
I'm watching to see what kind of time Rondeau puts in this time. Last one was deleted, unfortunately, so we won't be able to know. 42.4, that one's kind of slow compared to what he was running prior. Of course, the traffic has seemed to have been quite a headache here today, so could have been that. And now 10 seconds later, Fulton across the line. He's the one that has the lap deleted that time, so not going to get a direct comparison. It is down to 10 seconds flat. We'll keep an eye on that as that develops. We got a car facing the wrong way in turn 3. That's Aaron Edwards, who is the last of the GT2s right now, so he's not going to lose position, but certainly could have caused a bit of a fright for those who first approached that car facing the wrong way.
Including your leader there, Michael W. Johnson, who's having to thread between Edwards and Oviatt there, it looked like. So he's now going to be behind BJ Fulton, excuse me. Edwards, I wonder if there's some damage to that car, Joe. It's just looking like he's really, really struggling here. Could just be that the tires are wearing off. Seen Edwards making a couple of mistakes here in the closing stages of this race.
Yeah, I think the drivers are getting weary out there. Even though Edwards has shared this with Shulam, he's been in the car since I think about the halfway point of this race. And 90 minutes of running can certainly mentally tear you down here in the sim.
Yeah, it really, really can, Joe. I know even after just an hour-and-a-half long race, you can feel it on your body. I can't imagine what these drivers are going through. Very, very tough to do. Very, very tough to keep through.
Last time by a 42.3 for Mark Rondeau. For BJ Fulton, another deleted lap. Guys, you're killing us up here. I just want to know what the lap times are. It's a few places which apparently are a little too hard to try and stay within the track boundaries. There's Mark Rondeau on your screen, heading into the darkness of the infield portion. He's going to get lapped by Michael W. Johnson as well here, who is the purple machine approaching him from behind.
And that is your overall leader as he comes up on him. not really able to close that down, that gap down up to Michael Ryan Johnson in front of him. The gap hovering now at about 18 seconds or so. So looks like that's getting a little out of reach for him. He's still got to keep an eye out here, make sure traffic doesn't unsettle him and pull him back into the clutches of BJ Fulton.
Easily able to get down through the quick chicane. Going to be 10 minutes to go here pretty soon. 3 hours of racing is a long time. The drivers are no doubt ready for that checkered flag to be waved and to be able to relax and share stories after this one. Michael W. Johnson is getting dangerously close to his first win of the season. And I believe actually potentially the first win of the series for him. I'll have to check and see what his stats are, if he's actually won one here in the virtual realm of the Porsche Owners Club. But it's going to be in incredibly dominant fashion if he and Framheim actually come away with this, considering they will finish a full lap ahead of any other driver on the track.
Yeah, absolute domination is really the way to say it, a full lap ahead. And remember, they've pretty much led every lap of this race. Framheim got past a little bit going around the draft on lap 1, but outside of that, that purple 106 machine has just been in the front of the field and never, ever looking back.
The gap, by the way, between Rondeau and Fulton has gone back up to about 11 seconds, so doesn't seem our hope for a battle is going to come to fruition the way things are going there. For a brief moment, it was closing together, and then something seems to have plagued the Fulton racing team in the last couple of laps. We've had a chance to ride on board with Michael W. Johnson. He was leading in, well, I guess Teddy Framheim, actually, that we rode with, but Michael Ryan Johnson leading the way in our GT2 class. Let's see what it takes to be quick in one of these GT2 cars. Let's listen in to our quickest driver leading down in the slower class. one thing's for certain from that onboard. It seems that Michael Ryan Johnson is not afraid of the curbs in this car, certainly taking them with gusto out there. But I love that we have the opportunity, DJ, to see these drivers race this layout on this track. Not something you'd usually expect in most racing games. Seeing some of these roval versions of these courses, but because they run this race in real life, this is why we get to see them try this. And what a cool experience to get to witness this in the virtual world and have them actually recreate it exactly as it is.
Most certainly, it is a really, really special thing. And I can tell you, as someone who actually got to do just that last year for my 30th birthday, granted, I did it unknowingly. I wasn't on the Roval course, I was on the Oval. But I went out and I was so excited the night before because I ran a really good IndyCar race at the Fontana D Oval. And then I was blindfolded and taken out to Fontana the next day to go run a Pro Mazda around the high banks. It is really impressive just how accurate iRacing is with their scans. It is absolutely incredible to be able to do it. The one thing that you can't take into consideration, though, when you get out onto this real track is the nerves and the wind and the sound and the adrenaline that you feel when you hear that motor fire up for the first time.
I'd love to get to experience that. Oh, and here we go. We worried about the fuel. Doug Boccignone is taking the car down pit lane. Did he not have enough in the end? Or is this something that we missed for the 581? 3 minutes left on the clock. This is achingly close if he underfueled it.
It certainly is. Sticking pretty close to the left there. I don't think, yeah, okay, he's going to come in, looks like for a little splash and dash here. Should have plenty of time if it is just a quick fill up. 5th place right now, AZ Racers, they're coming out. Yeah, that's a splash and dash for Boccignone. They messed up the fuel calculation, but he will be able to go back out on track and maintain that 4th place position.
Lost a lap to the Fulton Racing team, but did not lose a position to the 69 car behind him. Watching to see where our leader is, to see how many laps we're going to get. We're currently on 114 for the Body Motion Racing team up at the front. There's BJ Fulton, who's actually closed that down to 8.2 seconds, by the way, to Rondeau. Little too late there, I think, in that situation. Unfortunately, across the line with 2.5 minutes to go. So yeah, 2 laps left in this 3-hour event. It is down to the dying stages. Michael W. Johnson can just about taste the champagne.
He can indeed, and it is long overdue and well-deserved for the driver of the 106. Takes it through that tricky 3 and 4 complex that we talked about a whole bunch during the course of this endurance race. Michael W. Johnson doing a good job here to continue the advantages laid in by his teammate Teddy Framheim. A really, really impressive drive.
Undoubtedly. A little bit of a slide there behind him. That was Jacob Abrams, who's still running about 62 laps down from our leader here, but going to try and finish, which a tip of the hat to Jacob for getting that car back out there and actually try to race it to the end, even if he wasn't going to gain any positions from that. As Michael W. Johnson now coming down to the last chicane in the infield. He's going to get the white flag this time by when he exits onto the bright lights of the oval. A full lap ahead of Travis Brown. Once he hits that white flag, nobody's going to be able to catch him here. So Michael W. Johnson flashing the lights, knowing that this race has essentially been won with a minute left to go and the white flag waving. He has got to be giddy inside of that cockpit.
He is going to be fun to talk to, that's for sure. And this is the other Michael Johnson, Michael Ryan Johnson, your leader in the GT2 category. A very commanding late race drive from him. Struggled a bit early to get by some of the other drivers. Had to put up a fight to do it, but a very, very impressive drive here from the Texan. He will have one to go at the line as he makes his way out of the infield for the penultimate time.
Yeah, Michael Ryan Johnson's got to feel good about this one, doing that solo and doing it with a good 17-second gap over Mark Rondeau. So he's got a healthy lead. Mark Rondeau, though, it's down to 5.6 seconds. BJ Fulton been closing in on him. I wonder if that Shaves Monkey Racing team short-fueled it a bit themselves and is having to coast it to the finish as we look at Michael W. Johnson coming out of the infield for the last time tonight. He is going to put 117 laps out there on this track. What an impressive run. The 106 is going to take victory with Michael W. Johnson and Teddy Framheim celebrating their win at Autoclub Speedway.
Commanding drive, commanding victory, absolutely incredible stuff from the 106. Looks like behind him, that's Jacob Abrams officially crossing over the line. CLBS Racing 2 laps down, but we're going to follow here your GT2 leader, Michael Ryan Johnson, as he pilots his way through the infield for one last time here tonight.
It's going to be a Michael Johnson sweep of the top step of the podium here as Michael Ryan Johnson now takes it out of the infield and into the bright lights amongst the celebrations of the fireworks. A solo win for the 3-team. Michael Ryan Johnson, your victor here today, once again racking up yet another one. It's close between the 171 and the 277 for second and third rather here, but with about 4 seconds between them, Rondeau's going to squeak this one home with a second place as Fulton takes his team at least to the podium. The rest of the cars now coming to the line, and we're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Autoclub Speedway. It was round 15 for the Porsche Owners Club Series, but the tribute to Le Mans for 3 hours saw a one-lap victory for Body Motion Racing as Michael W. Johnson and Teddy Framheim swept the field, with Travis Brown coming home behind them for RSR Addicts. Then it's CLBS Racing finishing in third, 2 laps down, and 4 laps down for the unfortunate Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu team, with them finishing ahead of 5th place team Jacob Abrams, who was a 62 lap down wrecked car that did finish at the checkered flag.
In the GT2 category, Michael Ryan Johnson had to fight his way to the front, but he was able to take the win, followed by the Shaved Monkey Racing team of Mark Rondeau and Michael Ost. Great run for them. Behind them, it was Fulton Racing Team with BJ Fulton bringing them home. Doug Boccignoni there for the RoboBach team, and then Eric Oviatt in 9th with John Momeyer and Jerry Freckleton in 6th, and Shulam Edwards in 7th. But Joe Peak has caught up with our overall leaders here, our overall winners, Michael W. Johnson and Teddy Framheim.
Indeed. And so let's start with Michael, because Michael, you've been working on this victory for 15 rounds, and it took a 3-hour enduro to make it happen. How do you feel?
Exhausted, I think, is probably the best word for it. Probably not quite as bad as Teddy. He ran double stint, and yeah, of course, he ran a beautiful double stint, and we have been working on this for about a week and a half, and I spent 8 hours alone on just getting this set up exactly right, so we could run 3 hours without, spinning.
Yeah, I feel like that's always one of those key things in this series, or in endurance races, trying to make sure that the car feels comfortable for both the drivers. So let's talk to Teddy then. Teddy, you did a lot of the work there at the start. What was involved in that? Were you a little nervous with the beginning, with the dangers involved in being around so many cars fighting for position?
Thinking back, that first entry to turn 3 was a bit of an adventure, but it feels like ages ago at this point. From that point, it was mostly trying to make sense relative to the other teams, how we were doing on pace. If us being on a full fuel load, how does that work relative to some others who are going on shorter stints? Obviously, it all worked out in the end. Just focusing on doing clean, consistent laps at a pace that I thought was safe.
How much were you two in each other's ear as well? Being teammates in an endurance race, you can take the time to kind of act as crew chief for each other. And did you?
Absolutely. We got to a point where I went to go hop back in the car, and I had been talking Teddy through, giving him pointers, helping him decide when to set up passes. And then I got in the car and forgot that I haven't driven this car since, about 3 o'clock this afternoon, and it's a little after 1 a.m. right now. So I was a little bit rusty, and I got on and I said, "Hey, Teddy, I need you to coach me through this. I need you to guide me because I'm not in a groove. Can you help me?" And of course, Teddy jumped right in, had perfect feedback. Push a little more here. I like your braking here. Hey, that was good. Don't do that again, or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I was in his ear a lot. I know he was in my ear a lot.
Well, it was fantastic and impressive to watch. Is there anybody you two would like to thank for this quite amazing victory with that gap that you built up?
I guess I'll go first. Thanks, obviously, to GSRC. I mean, you guys stuck it out for 3+ hours of commentary. That's a feat unto itself. I presume my wife is still watching and not asleep, but I'll go check on that in a second. So thank you for watching and supporting me. Thank you to BR Racing for supporting me in my Spec Boxster endeavors. And thank you to Michael for being an awesome teammate. And POC. Can't leave POC out.
Yeah, I was going to start out by saying huge thanks to Teddy. I had a couple of offers out there to drive with a few people. And it's kind of like, when the prom queen invites you to the prom, or prom king, I should say, invites you to the prom, you kind of go, this would be a really good pairing, because we're both very talented in different ways. So yeah, huge thanks to Teddy. Of course, thanks to Fix Vodka and to Truffle Shuffle, new sponsors. So hopefully Truffle Shuffle fans are out there watching and Fix Vodka fans are out there watching.
Great stuff there from the Body Motion Racing team. And up next, DJ's caught up with our winner in the GT2 race. That was Michael Ryan Johnson.
Well, Michael, unlike the boys at the front of the GT1, you had to fight for this one, but once you got there, you never let it go. Congratulations on the win today.
Hey, thank you so much, TJ. That was a heck of a race. I thought it would kind of spread out or separate itself, but it really working the entire 3 hours. So a lot of fun. If 30-minute races are good, then 3 hours has to be better, right?
Something like that, my friend. Well, I wanted to talk to you. I mean, once you got out into that lead and you started seeing that gap really starting to develop, how much did that change your driving style? How much did that change what you were doing on course?
Yeah, so it was really interesting actually, because a lot of the pre-race testing and practice I saw guys doing, their lap times were crazy fast. And my qualifying actually wasn't that good. I'd spent a lot of time on the longer run setups, like with a heavy car. And the car was fantastic for the long runs. And so once I got some clear air, I was just able to put my head down. And for those longer stints, the car was really good. And because I developed a gap, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to take tires or not. And that was a big key, that I was able to put fresh tires on the car for every pit. So I was really able to push the entire race up to the last lap, and it felt great.
Well, that answered one of my good questions for you. Anybody you'd like to thank for this truly incredible win here tonight?
Well, everyone at Global SimRacing Channel for keeping us going the whole time. First of all the guys that I was racing with made it really fun. So Mark Rondeau, and then Matt Hollander was in there, Eric Oviat. There was a whole bunch of really fast guys that made it a lot of fun. So thanks to all those guys for keeping me honest the whole time.
Well, thank you, Michael. And Michael perfectly teased it there. That was your winner in the GT2 category, but we're going to hop over with Joe Peak, who has caught up with the second place finishers in GT1, Michael Ost and Travis Brown.
Running for the RSR Addicts team. And guys, let's start before we get to the end of the race. At the very beginning, you started on the front row and found yourself in fourth after the first corner with the craziness erupting in front of you. What was going through your heads then?
Yeah, I was just trying to stay out of trouble and keep it clean. I knew it was a long race, and I thought I got a decent jump, but everybody else, just the draft was so strong, and I don't know, I wasn't feeling too spicy to try and defend on lap one.
And you guys obviously played it with Travis starting and then Michael running the middle stint, handing back to Travis for the end. What motivated you to try that order for the two of you? Did you feel like Travis was a better anchor today, or was it just a bit of a luck of the draw?
Well, Travis wanted to start. I said, go for it. And so he started, and then we just decided that, I didn't want to do a double stint at the end of it. And so we would switch drivers at the end of it. So that's how it worked out.
Makes sense to me. You guys obviously found yourself a lap down towards the end. Michael W. Johnson running ahead of you. Did you try to kind of just slip in line behind him and try to help the fuel mileage there at the end? Or what was the plan when you saw that, well, we're going to be a lap down from the leader, even though we're second?
Yeah, it was all about fuel saving at the end there. Just trying to stay in his draft, and we were running on a reduced fuel mode anyway. As I made a bit of a fuel miscalculation, and so we ended up having to save a lot more than I had planned on. But it all worked out. Finished with a whole 0.03 gallons. But yeah, it was a little tight.
Yeah, and also the idea was after we got wrecked at the beginning and we got the meatball and we had to come in early for a pit, we lost so much time at that point. We were just trying to save second place. So it was more of, we didn't really care if we were a lap down from first place. We just wanted to keep second.
That was quite a feat, managing to stay not only on the podium, but finish second place today. Anybody you two would like to thank for managing to get that podium in such a grueling race?
Oh, so I think good teamwork. We did some good prep and working on the setup and everything, and then just good communication throughout. So all good.
Yeah, definitely. I have to thank my partner and GSRC and POC. And definitely it all worked out in the end. It looked like Brian and Corey ran out of gas at the end, so they had the same problem we did.
Yeah, it came down to that in the end for a few people, but that was our second place finishers for the RSR Addicts team. Up next, second place in the GT2s was Mark Rondeau and, of course, Michael Bolton. DJ's caught up with them.
Well, gents, you drove a great race out there today. Looks like maybe some frustrating issues with traffic, but you've got to be happy coming home on the podium after 3 grueling hours.
Oh, definitely. It was definitely a long, hard race.
That was just incredible, man. I have to give it up to you. Didn't do it in 2 hours. I did 1 hour and had a lot of pressure from the Fultons and trying to catch Michael Ryan Johnson. But P2 is incredible, and I will take home the victory with Rondo any day.
Oh yeah, Bolton did a great job. He just steady. That whole middle stint was perfect. Good communication between us, and a lot of fun.
Well, talk me through a little bit of that final stint, because it looked like there for a while that BJ was starting to close in on you. We heard you guys may have run out of fuel. Did that play true?
No, we had plenty of fuel. We finished with 3 gallons. We actually had a little more than we needed. But it was in that last stint, I was just trying not to make mistakes and not get caught up with any of the GT2 cars. I knew I had a big gap, so if he came closer, that was fine. We had room. A simple spin or an off, and we would have lost it all. I'd rather not do that.
Well, I can hear that. Now, obviously, the Porsche Owners Club's headed out to this very track this weekend, I believe, unless I'm crazy. How much do you think this guys has prepared you for it?
I love this track. I actually was born a couple of blocks from here, where this track is, and I've got hundreds of laps here. It's a really fun track, and this will probably be the last time we get to run it in this configuration.
Well, there you go, guys. I know I'm very heartbroken to see it go as well. This was one of my favorite places to go watch some Indy cars turn around. But both you guys, Mark, Michael, anybody you'd like to thank for this second place out here today?
Let's thank the POC. Let's thank everybody for coming out and watching this race. Let's thank all of the drivers, because having a not completely full field, this was still so incredibly fun. It's my first endurance race, so big shout out to the POC, big shout out to Rondo. Great team, can't wait to do this again.
I definitely have to thank my teammate Michael Bolton. He made this a lot of fun. My first enduro in a team event. GSRC, you guys are incredible. Love going back and watching these on YouTube and on the channel, and of course POC and all the drivers out here. It just incredible events, so much fun. Not just the races, but practice, everything that has to do with this. Great group of guys.
Well, thank you, Mark. That was your second place finishers in GT2. And now Joe Peak is caught up with half of your third place finishing team in GT1, Corey Lotvala.
Yes, indeed. Teaming up with Brian Salehi to bring it to a third place today. But you were also one of those that were involved in that opening lap melee that happened down into the first turn. Did you get the 3 wide call in your ear, and what was going on when that happened?
Oh man, I just saw cars going like every direction. I'm just like, no, like just get through the corner. Like it looked like someone overshot the corner. I don't know what happened, but they took the low line right through the center of the track, and I thought I was done for. And somehow I got through it and looked back, and everyone was behind me. I'm like, oh, here we go.
things got really jumbled toward the end with all the different pit strategies that everybody was using. Were you in communication with Bayern at that time, trying to keep him abreast of what was happening?
Yeah, I feel like we did a really good job on pit strategy. We Bayern had a little accident through the corner, spun out and didn't really spin out. He just went off in the grass and hit the wall and put the steering wheel crooked. And he went to go use a fast repair, and for some reason there was no more fast repairs. I don't know how they got used up. I didn't hit anything, so I have no idea. So he was driving with a messed up car for about an hour and just having to deal with it. But other than that, the pit strategies were pretty good.
This is such a strange race compared to the others in the season involved in the championship, since you have to share those points with one of your rivals. Was third or better kind of your goal coming in, or was it basically a win or nothing for you?
I definitely wanted the win. Definitely wanted second place. That would have kept me in front of Johnson. But he got his freebie on this one, so I'm coming out for him. I'm pretty sure I'll be able to get him in the rest of the season, so we should be fine.
I like the confidence there, Corey. Anybody you want to give a thank you to for the podium today?
Dave Schmidt from Schmidt Racing. That man is awesome. I couldn't be doing it without him, and love having him on board. You guys from GSRC, you guys are awesome. Like 3 hours strong, and I bet it was awesome. And then just friends and family staying up super late like they are, getting texts still at 11 o'clock at night, and feels pretty good. Thank you.
That was Corey Lotvilla, who teamed up with Brian Salehi to take third in the GT2s, or GT1s. In the GT2s, actually, third place was Fulton Racing Team. BJ is now joining DJ.
Well, BJ, that looked like a little bit of a war of attrition out there, and you were able to come home in the podium after 3 hours. That's got to be a pretty good reward.
Yeah, it was all right. It was a little bit disappointing. I felt like I was the fastest guy out there for a lot of laps, at least in the middle, but I think I spun 3 times, 2 of them just unforced errors, which is pretty uncharacteristic for me. So that bummed me out, but I'm happy to get some good points for Adam in the GT2 series.
Yeah, for sure. And how was it making that transition down to the GT2? Did you have any major problems doing it, or how did you find the slower Porsche out here?
Well, I did all last season in the GT4, but me and the GT4 are not best friends. So it's I like the RSR a lot better, and it's always tough for me to drive the GT4. It is fun to race, though. I feel like you can be closer to people than the RSR.
Well, it certainly looked fun out there. And I want to ask you really quickly about those last couple of laps. We saw that lap time just ticking down in front of you to Mark Rondeau. How hard were you pushing trying to catch him?
Very hard. My fastest lap of the race was lap 104, and I completed 105. So I was giving it everything.
I love that commitment, BJ. Anybody you'd like to thank for this podium here tonight?
Let me just thank Adam, my teammate, for giving a nice, good, consistent first stint and putting me in a good place to bring home for the podium.
Well, there you go, folks. That was BJ Fulton, your third place finisher here tonight in the GT2s. Joe?
That's going to wrap us up this evening after a 3-hour race. So we want to give a thank you to our sponsors as well on this series, which includes Porsche. There is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. As well as Sunset Mortgage. Don't put your money in the bank, be the bank. Check them out today at sunsetcash.net. As well as Octavio Tequila. Celebrate now. For a great tasting tequila, go to octaviotequila.com and purchase today. And finally, Century Financial Consultants, making the rest of your life the best of your life. You can check out their website at centuryretire.com. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media listed on the screen. Check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. We keep a link in the description below. And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. The next race in the series is going to be back to the normal sprint format at Watkins Glen. That'll be Monday, August 16th at 11 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.